Chapter 439. The heavy snow that lasted for several days blocked the official road between the land of fire and the land of demons. If there is no accident, the snow on this official road will only get thicker in the coming winter, and no one will clear it. Because even if it is cleared, there will be no communication. But this winter seems to be a bit unpeaceful. In the heavy snow, two people wearing fire-cloud trench coats were leaping on branches. One had a combed back and a three-toothed scythe on his back. The other wore a hood on his head and a mask on his face, revealing only a pair of green eyes. It was the Akatsuki's undead duo, Haiden and Kakuzu. Since that guy found someone, why didn't he bring them back directly? Why did he make us run so far? Flying in front, Haiden complained while carrying a three-toothed red scythe. Kakuzu behind him replied, "I guess he can't deal with it alone. After all, the other party is one of the famous wood-leaf Sannin." Haiden said disdainfully, "One of the Sannin, it's just that guy Hanzo said it casually, and, even Hanzo is dead now." Haiden's words were a little angry. The people who chased the Clown Emperor before didn't enter the wood-leaf because of the name of Jiraiya Sannin. Kakuzu looked at Haiden and was silent for a long time before saying, "Don't underestimate the wood-leaf ninja. Each of those three people is not simple, such as..." "Orochimaru," Haiden froze and replied, "That guy is really not simple. He came to the woodleaf and did such a big thing while being chased by us, and he didn't die." At this moment, a female voice suddenly appeared in their ears. "Listening to your conversation. You seem to be looking for me?" This voice appeared extremely abruptly. The two looked back at the same time and found a person standing on the back branch of a tree they passed by. A woman with beige hair and a diamond-shaped seal on her forehead. Their target. Tsunade. Haiden took off the scythe on his back and was ready to fight. "It's really a happy thing to meet on the way, so we don't have to continue running around in this heavy snow." Tsunade crossed her shoulders and raised her eyebrows. "What are you looking for me for? Could it be that someone has contracted an incurable disease again?" Kakuzu replied, "Not yet, but we're here to invite you to join us." Tsunade glanced at their outfits. She seemed to have heard Jiraiya talking about them before. "You are Shao." Kakuzu nodded. "Since you already know about us, are you willing to join us?" Fei Duan shouted, "If you don't join, I'll offer you to Lord Evil God." Tsunade glanced at Haiden. He directly entered monstrous strength mode and appeared in front of Flying Cross amidst the sound of an explosion. He kicked Flying Cross 100 meters away and crashed into the ground, creating a large crater. "Join you?" "Sure, but you have to let me gauge your capabilities first, right? If he's too weak, I don't mind going." Tsunade rolled up her sleeves. She had been in a bad mood recently because of Kato. Now, he was looking for a chance to vent. Snow Country. Great Snow Mountain Laboratory. Naruto was lying flat on the 12th floor. He took off his shirt, revealing the curse seal on his abdomen for Uzumaki Mito to check. 2 4-symbol seals? What's the use of this? Can it make the seal stronger? Uzumaki Mito didn't check the curse seal carefully and recognized the origin of the seal on Naruto's body at a glance. Then the rune was linked to the seal, and Nine-Tails' big face appeared in front of Uzumaki Mito's eyes. This wasn't intentional, but Nine-Tails' chakra's instinctive reaction. Uzumaki Mito's eyes widened, and he didn't react with fear. He was curious and sighed, "What a big dog face." Chakra's spiritual impact was only for a moment, and then Uzumaki Mito's consciousness entered the sealed space of Nine-Tails and saw the Nine-Tails sealed in Naruto's body. He was stunned. Uzumaki Mito stared at the little Nine-Tails, blinked cutely, and then rushed over. "Wow! What a cute dog!" Dog Naruto's consciousness appeared behind Uzumaki Mito, looking at Nine-Tails' face. He couldn't help but laugh. Uzumaki Mito ran to the cage formed by the 8-diagram seal and looked at Nine-Tails through the gap of the cage and praised, "So beautiful. It's so cute." Nine lowered his head and looked at Uzumaki Mito with contempt, and said to Naruto, "Can a silly girl who can't distinguish between a dog and a fox break the seal? Do you believe it?" Naruto looked at Nine-Tails and Uzumaki Mito, and suddenly felt that the scene in front of him was very funny. Obviously, the two guys knew each other. But Nine Tails lost her memory because of chakra, and Uzumaki Mito didn't meet Nine Tails because of her reincarnation state. As a result, they didn't know each other. Interesting, although she's a bit silly, her sealing technique is really powerful. Naruto praised Uzumaki Mito. Uzumaki Mito put her hands on her waist. I'm very powerful. Nine Tails' mouth twitched, and he emphasized, I'm a fox. However, Uzumaki Mito didn't listen at all. Her body floated up, and her hand pressed on the iron door formed by the 8-diagram seal. Ding! Ling! There seemed to be a bell ringing in the void. Uzumaki Mito closed her eyes, and her expression was solemn. Ding! Nine Tails' door lock moved. Nine Tails and Naruto looked over at the same time. Could it be that Uzumaki Mito could directly unlock the seal? Ding! Nine Tails' door lock turned again. There was a crack in the door lock that was installed on the wheel. Nine Tails' chakra spread out a bit. For a moment, it seemed to set off a storm. However, the next moment, the door lock, clack, 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 clack. Uzumaki Mito opened her eyes and exhaled, "Who? It's a bit troublesome, I can't open it at once." It failed, but Naruto couldn't turn the Nine Tails seal right away. He could only take the initiative to accept Nine Tails' chakra to suppress the strength of the seal. Can my seal be unlocked? Naruto appeared beside Uzumaki Mito. Uzumaki Mito looked up and smiled. It's a piece of cake, leave it to me. But I have a condition. Another condition? Naruto found that Uzumaki Mito seemed to like to talk about conditions. Say it, as long as I can do it, I will promise you. Uzumaki Mito pouted, You liar, I asked you to marry a few more women and have a few more children, such a simple thing, you didn't promise me. Naruto's little face was as black as the bottom of a pot, full of resentment. Is that marrying a few more? You asked me to marry a few hundred and have a few thousand. What do you think I am? An assembly line in a factory? Uzumaki Mito was pleasantly surprised. So a few less will do? Well, take Karen. You are a mixed blood, only half of the Uzumaki bloodline. If you marry someone else's child, the bloodline will be even less. Only marrying Karen will be better. Also, marry that Nagato. What? Marry Nagato? Naruto's face was black. Did I forget to say that Nagato is a man? Uzumaki Mito's eyes lit up. What does it matter if he is a man? The three of you work together to revitalize the Uzumaki clan. What the F***ck does it matter? F***ck revitalization. Naruto's whole face turned black. F***ck off. If you want to revitalize it, you go. Uzumaki Mito blinked her big watery eyes, pointed to herself, and said, You want me? That's fine, then from today on, I am yours. Let's revitalize the Uzumaki clan together. Naruto, uffed. Naruto spat out a mouthful of blood. This time, he even spat out his liver. She really is a child. She dares to say anything. Chapter 440. He gave Uzumaki Mito the same 4-star identity card as Tobirama. He introduced Uzumaki Mito to the people of the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute. Finally, he arranged a residence for Uzumaki Mito. In theory, people who are reincarnated in Edo Tensei only need a corpse coffin, but Naruto's treatment was obviously much higher. Well, this will be your room from now on. Lie in the corpse coffin when you rest. This will have a certain repair effect on your body and can delay the use of the body. In a large room with complete equipment, Uzumaki Mito fiddled with the corpse coffin, and at the same time, the database of the Super Brain System appeared about the corpse coffin. Hey, Naruto, will I die in 3 months? After learning that she was not really resurrected now, Uzumaki Mito's face was a little worried. Naruto replied, In theory, this body only has about 3 months of use, but even if the time limit of this body is up, I can continue to help you reincarnate. Uzumaki Mito bowed her head and was silent for a long time. Naruto thought that Uzumaki Mito was sad about the shortness of life, but who knew that Uzumaki Mito said, 3 months. I can't have children in such a short time. A big drop of cold sweat appeared on Naruto's head. Was this girl still thinking about the child? Naruto awkwardly cleared his throat. Well, if there is nothing else, I will go first. If you have something, you can ask Guni for help. If they can't solve it, you can ask me. After saying that, Naruto quickly slipped away. Outside the door, Tobirama was a little hesitant. That, or brother and sister-in-law will be reincarnated in Edo Tensei again. Naruto looked at Tobirama and smiled bitterly. I think so too. This girl is really difficult for ordinary people. For example, just now Naruto took Mito to see Hinata. Uzumaki Mito directly claimed to be Naruto's wife, which almost made Hinata become evil. But in the end, Naruto explained the problem clearly. At least from Naruto's point of view, the explanation was clear. Tobirama opened his mouth and shook his head. Forget it, this is also good, brother and sister-in-law can forget all the troubles, it is also her blessing to live a new life. Naruto asked curiously, has she always been so cheerful? Tobirama shook his head and said, I've never seen her before. In my memory, brother and sister-in-law are very elegant people who pay great attention to etiquette and are knowledgeable. Halfway through, Tobirama shook his head. Maybe, this is her original appearance. You're welcome. Etiquette has always represented a kind of distance. Naruto nodded and did not ask any more questions. The two of them had only taken 2 steps when they saw Hinata leaning against the corner of the wall. Tobirama left first. Naruto stepped forward and teased, What's wrong? You look a little unhappy. Hinata stared at her toes. Naruto-kun, in the future. How many? Hinata's voice was getting smaller and smaller, almost inaudible. However, Naruto guessed what Hinata wanted to ask. Holding Hinata's hand, I only want you. Hinata's small face blushed. Her heart beat faster. As for the other thing she wanted to ask, she couldn't remember. After coaxing Hinata, he accompanied Hinata to watch a movie together. Then Naruto returned to his laboratory and continued yesterday's research. A confrontation experiment between Naruto's cells and Shodai's cells. To put it simply, yesterday, Naruto put his cells and Shodai's cells in a culture medium to cultivate. Thinking about it, there should be a result today. System prompt, medical system perception enchantment connection successful. In front of Naruto's eyes, there was a laboratory panel. The panel listed the entries of various experiments done in the past. Some had already ended, and some were still in progress. Among them, the name of the experiment named Cell Hegemony Competition had already shown that it was completed. Naruto clicked on the entry. Then, he saw Shodai cells that were still alive in the culture medium, as well as his cells that were already dead. He clicked play playback. Fast forward playback, 1 time, 5 times, 10 times. In the image recorded by the perception enchantment, Naruto's cells were marked with red cell staining liquid, and Hashirama's cells were marked with green cell staining liquid suspended in the culture medium. Hashirama's cells were very quiet and motionless. On the contrary, Naruto's cells were much more lively, and they were wandering around. That was the external manifestation of quickly devouring the nutrients in the culture medium. It was like a game of eating beans. Naruto's cells were constantly absorbing the nutrients in the culture medium, from 1 to 2, and then from 2 to 4. Naruto's cell army was growing stronger. In the process of growing, they soon encountered Hashirama's cells. Hashirama's cells were very quiet. Naruto's cells moved closer. At first, the two were in harmony, until the nutrients in the culture medium became less and less. Naruto's cells, in their hunger, decided to attack their quiet brother. The image that followed was that one Naruto cell failed, and then thousands of Naruto cells stood up. But they also failed, and in the end, Hashirama's cells ate Naruto's cells. Sad. This experiment proved that although Naruto's current body was very strong, it was still not as strong as Shodai Naruto's sage body. Naruto pressed his hand into the culture medium. The dual-core decomposition array on his hand was activated, and chakra was extracted from Shodai's cells. Under the perception enchantment, Shodai's cells withered at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, a strong vitality flowed into Naruto's body. Naruto's skin became fairer and more lustrous. Naruto was silent. Was the decomposition array too powerful? Not really. Last time, Naruto added this kind of core formation on a death row inmate, and let the death row inmate swallow 9 tails chakra. As a result, that person only swallowed a little bit before dying. His entire body twitched, and Naruto, the medical ninja god, tried to save him, but he couldn't. His death was quick and clean, just like a little white mouse that ate the alien fruit. Thinking of this, Naruto replayed the experiment video of Yakushi's pocket. Then he looked at the video of the death row inmate swallowing 9 tails chakra. It was really similar. Could it be that the two were related? This idea was a bit far-fetched. The substance in the alien fruit wasn't chakra, but it was hard to say what it was. Naruto made a small note of what he couldn't understand, and then he stopped thinking about it. Naruto's main reason for studying his body was to understand how strong he was now, and to think about how to improve himself. This problem had troubled Naruto for a long time. Naruto raised his hand, and the Kusanagi sword appeared in Naruto's hand. This ninja sword was borrowed from Sasuke, and Naruto hadn't returned it yet. Reluctant. A little. After all, this sword was better than his blue sleeve sword in terms of workmanship and strength. Naruto raised his other hand, and the blue sleeve sword also appeared in his hand. Comparing the two, it seemed that Naruto still liked the blue sleeve sword. Naruto waved the two weapons. He remembered what Natsuya Sakuragi said to him when he returned to the wood leaf: "Practice the sword because killing is easy." Naruto frowned. "They're a bit too light." At the same time, in the dense forest bordering the land of fire and the land of demons, the sky began to snow again. Tsunade's face was covered with curses, which were unlocked by the Baihao technique. She shouted and punched Kokuzu's back. Bang! A sound was heard. Accompanied by the sound of the mask breaking, there was a faint "Puchi." Tsunade punched through Kokuzu's body. At the same time, she found something strange. "What's wrong with your body?" Tsunade was surprised. At this time, black tentacles rushed out from Kokuzu's back and wrapped around Tsunade. On the other side, in the snow, the eyes of the flying Duon's head that had been twisted off rolled around. It stood not far away and touched the corpse to search for its head. Chapter 441. Snow filled the sky outside the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute. It wasn't very big and was somewhat soothing. Coupled with the tall pine trees, it was particularly artistic. Naruto held the green sleeve sword in his hand and stood among the pine trees at the foot of the snow mountain. The sword slowly came out of its scabbard. Naruto watched the sword slowly come out of its scabbard. His thoughts seemed to have returned to the day when this sword was forged. At the same time, he thought of the large lump of steel in his hand. The sword came out of its scabbard and the scabbard was inserted into the snow. Looking at the scabbard inserted into the snow, Naruto had an idea. Wouldn't it be interesting if he added some charms to the scabbard and inserted it into the ground to activate it? Naruto kept this idea in mind. Then, he focused all his attention on the sword in his hand. Green Sleeve Sword was the name given by the store manager. It came from the nimbleness of the sword, the beauty of the sword, and the slash was like a beauty flicking her sleeve. It was a bit flashy, but in fact, Naruto quite liked it. Holding the sword in his hand, Naruto used all his strength and began to practice sword after sword. The weight of the sword was indeed a bit light for the current Naruto. He felt that the strength in his body couldn't burst out. But at the same time, Naruto's sword was also faster. Should he pursue strength or speed? Naruto slashed out with his sword and several snowflakes in the perception barrier were cut in half. Naruto was slightly surprised and then closed the perception barrier. Then, after thinking about it, he chose to go offline and block all messages. Today, he wanted to concentrate on practicing sword and didn't want anything to disturb him. After closing the system, the operation page in front of Naruto's eyes disappeared. Naruto closed his eyes and calmed his thoughts. Once again, he struck out with his sword. This time, the sword energy was clear. It seemed casual, but it was a very straight sword. The trace left behind by the sword was a straight line. It was a very clear and beautiful sword. Naruto stood in the wind and snow, listening to the wind blowing the branches, listening to the snow falling on his sword, his body. After that, Naruto started practicing his swordsmanship again, but this time, his movements were slower. It was very, very slow, but it didn't stop. Every move and style was very coherent, and looked very pleasing to the eye. Naruto did not open his eyes as he continued to practice sword after sword. His spiritual power went from being hit from a high altitude to calming down his heart like still water, to forgetting everything and merging with heaven and earth. Naruto vaguely saw this world in the wind and snow. He saw the traces of falling snow and the silhouette of trees in front of him. It was not very clear. It was the friction between the snowflakes and the air. It was the vibration caused by the snowflakes falling on the trees. That was the world depicted by sound. Naruto's movements became even slower. His sword slashed down along with the sound waves. The sound was cut apart by him. To be more precise, the sound produced by the sword collided with the sound wave, and then the two of them cancelled each other out and dissipated into nothingness. Naruto had never done such a thing before, nor could he do it. Naruto felt that everything in front of him benefited from the qualitative change of his body's strength. At the same time, this was also a kind of realm. It was just that ordinary people might have to spend a lifetime of energy and effort to reach this realm. But he took advantage of a little trick, benefiting from his strong body. Naruto poured chakra into the sword. Under the semi-materialized nature of chakra, the air resistance of the sword was reduced. The sound produced also became softer. When the sword slashed out, it was also a silent slash. If there was a difference, it was only due to the different changes in the rules. If there was a difference, it seemed there was no difference. Naruto began to try to pour other chakra into the sword. He was most familiar with the wind attribute chakra. Now, his strongest sword attack was a wind blade in the form of a chakra scalpel in high-frequency vibration. A wind blade condensed on the blade of the sword, and the sword once again felt resistance from the attack. Chakra's semi-materialized nature changed with the high degree of concentration of chakra. Then it vibrated. Buzz. The wind blade hummed softly, and the vibration frequency increased, and the sound disappeared. Obviously, the amplitude of the sound produced had exceeded the range that the human ear could hear. When the sword slashed out, the wind blade passed through the snowflakes. The snowflakes were cut and then shattered and vaporized in the aftermath of the vibration. This was Naruto's wind sword, named Storm Wound. Naruto slashed a few more times, but there was no inspiration for new moves. Then, he changed to the fire attribute. Naruto's fire attribute originated from Sasuke, and later integrated with second last Matatabi. Therefore, the flames formed by Naruto's chakra were dark blue with black patterns. They were actually black flames. Blue, black. Two different colored flames. Flames wrapped around the sword and condensed in the form of a wind blade? Naruto tried, but there was no effect. It was not as sharp as the wind, and Naruto's control of the fire attribute chakra was not as profound as the wind attribute. Therefore, this attack was a little ugly. It seemed that the fire attribute was not suitable to be integrated into swordsmanship. Naruto changed to other attributes. Naruto had mastered wind, fire, earth, water, magnetic, ice, wood, and even yang. Naruto had even tried it. It felt terrible. Compared to the wind escape sword, it seemed superfluous no matter how one looked at it. However, Naruto did not give up, nor did he stop. Today, he only wanted to practice his swordsmanship, and it did not matter if he succeeded or not. Chakra's ice attribute nature changed. With a slash of the sword, an overwhelming number of ice cones shot out along with the blade. It looked cool, but Naruto knew that it had nothing to do with swordsmanship. Could it be that he added some stage effects? In that case, how could he apply chakra's nature changes to his swordsmanship? The ice attribute chakra filled his body, and Naruto's body integrated into the ice and snow. Escape technique. Then sneak attack? It was indeed a way to use it, but it was so low-end that it was shameful. Ice escape, ice cones, ice mirror, ice. What else could ice do? Did the ice attribute chakra's nature change have any other properties? Naruto remembered that he still had a secret scroll about ice escape that he had not finished learning. That 1,000 miles of ice was a secret technique to control temperature. Temperature. Naruto felt that his thoughts had suddenly grasped something. Ice escape chakra could reduce temperature. Fire chakra could increase temperature. Naruto felt as if he had been enlightened. The ice cones could not be integrated into the swordsmanship, but what about temperature? Naruto once again infused the ice attribute chakra into the green sleeve sword. This time, he did not use the ice attribute chakra to turn it into ice cones. Instead, he activated the ice attribute's cooling property. With another slash, Naruto's sword cut into a cedar. The sword cut through. The upper half of the cedar, which was as thick as a person, slid down under the smooth cut. It fell to the ground and pierced into the snow, but there was no muffled sound, but a sound like glass breaking. Walala! The tree was smashed. The effect was outstanding. It could be called perfect. Then, what about the fire attribute's high temperature? Naruto was eager to try. The fire attribute chakra was infused into the green sleeve sword, increasing the temperature. Ding-ling! A light sound came from the sword, and a crack appeared. Naruto could not help but curse. F***ck. Chapter 442. In the forest on the border of the land of demons, Tsunade turned her head to look at the person behind her in disbelief. This person should be dead, because she had already twisted his head off. The Grim Reaper's scythe was inserted into Tsunade's abdomen, and Tsunade coughed up blood in pain. Haydn smirked and said, "Are you surprised? This is the power of Lord Evil God. Come with me and worship the Lord Evil God." Haydn dragged the scythe and intended to cut Tsunade's stomach directly. However, at this time, Tsunade's hand pressed on the scythe and exerted force. Ding! The top tooth of Haydn's three-toothed scythe was forcibly broken off from the scythe. Then Tsunade pulled out the scythe from her back. Hand seal, Baihao Jutsu, creation regeneration. For a time, the wound on Tsunade's abdomen healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Don't be too surprised, under Baihao Jutsu, I am also immortal. Why don't you just worship me? Tsunade shouted and punched Haydn's head. Like a watermelon bursting, Haydn's head exploded. Let me see if you can come back to life again. After the punch, Tsunade pulled Haydn's arm with both hands and kicked him in the abdomen. Under the tremendous force, Fly Dan's 2 arms were torn off, and at the same time, his spine was directly broken in half by this kick. Blood dripped onto the pure white snow and bloomed in an enchanting manner, just like the legendary red spider lilies that bloomed in hell. Tsunade tore Haydn and turned to look at Kakuzu. Now it's your turn, monster. You have 5 hearts, don't you? Let me see if you can continue to stand after I crush all 5 of your hearts. No, now, you only have 3 left. Tsunade rushed to Kakuzu as she said that. At the same time, under the same sky, the land of snow was also snowing. At the foot of the great snow mountain, Naruto stared blankly at the azure sleeve sword in his hand. Cracked, thermal expansion and cold contraction, he forgot such a simple truth. Naruto put away the fire attribute chakra. Ding! The cut on the sword was lengthened once again. Naruto's heart twitched. The wound on the sword was somewhat different from an ordinary wound. Although it was split open, there were still thousands of thin meridian-like threads connecting it together. It was a bit like a broken lotus root being connected by a broken thread. Naruto carefully raised the sword to his eyes and carefully observed the net. If his guess was correct, This should be living steel. Naruto took out his sword of Kusanagi and made a cut on his hand, letting the blood drip down. When the living steel came into contact with the fresh blood, it began to pull at the gaps in the metal like a living creature. A minute later, the sword returned to its original state. Naruto's hand healed much faster than the sword. Almost as soon as Naruto thought about it, the wound healed perfectly. He didn't even need to scab. Nine Tails, who had lost his memory, looked at the scene in front of him and said in surprise, "Eh? This sword could actually drink human blood to repair itself? That's interesting." Naruto simply explained, "That's a rare metal called living steel. When this metal is added to the weapon, it has the ability to repair itself." After the explanation, Naruto looked at the azure sleeve sword. At this time, the temperature of the sword had returned to normal. Then, should he test the temperature of the fire attribute chakra again? Naruto tried to inject some fire attribute chakra. Temperature. Naruto didn't know the exact temperature. The dark blue and black flames wrapped around the sword, burning the snowflakes and making sizzling sounds. Temperature rose again. The azure sleeve sword's body was burning red, water vapor rose, and the light around the sword began to distort under the effect of the evaporating water vapor. At the same time, the surface of the sword reflected the web-like meridians all over the sword. The meridians were redder than the other parts of the sword and pulsated like human blood vessels. Naruto increased the infusion of chakra and compressed it. Temperature rose again. The quantity of fire attribute chakra caused a qualitative change. The sword's body became redder, and then, the sword's body softened. If this continued, the sword would be destroyed. Naruto stopped and the fire attribute chakra was replaced by the normal chakra. The azure sleeve sword was restored to its original state under the living steel's repair. Should he try the Kusanagi sword again? Naruto thought and took out the Kusanagi sword. After all, the Kusanagi sword was called a divine weapon. Maybe it could withstand it? First, he injected the ice attribute chakra into the sword. Naruto didn't slash, but looked at the sword in his hand. There were layers of beautiful ice flowers on the sword's body. Then, the fire attribute chakra's nature changed. Temperature rose. Naruto stared at the Kusanagi sword in his hand. Ding! With a crisp sound, Naruto saw a hair-thin crack. Compared to the azure sleeve sword, the Kusanagi sword was much better. The fire attribute chakra continued to be injected, and the sword's body turned red. Then, it revealed the same red lines as the azure sleeve sword. Obviously, living steel was added to the Kusanagi sword. The only difference was that the lines on the Kusanagi sword were much denser, even, and perfect. With one look, one could tell that it was made by a real master. Moreover, Naruto stared intently at the veins. Naruto found that these veins seemed to be engraved with curse seals. What kind of sword forging technique was this? Was it a combination of sealing and sword forging? Naruto kept the fire attribute chakra and tried to link it to the Kusanagi sword with the rune lines. There was really a talisman array. Naruto was surprised. The talisman array was built on living steel, but it wasn't the usual runes carved with ink lines. It was carved with living steel. How was it done? The most amazing thing was, there was a trace of mental energy in it. It gave people the feeling that this sword was alive. Naruto tried to make contact with the mental energy. Then he felt cold all over. He fell into a dark world. There was nothing in the world, only vague whispers like ghosts whispering in his ears. Naruto quickly stopped thinking. He couldn't help but shiver. This sword was a bit evil. Then, Naruto used the rune lines to link his azure sleeve sword. Naruto never added any sealing techniques to the azure sleeve sword. The shop owner couldn't have added any because he didn't know any sealing techniques. But the rune lines and the living steel lines were successfully linked. Was the living steel a better material than ink to carve runes? Naruto wandered around the living steel's meridians and didn't find any abnormalities. During his research, Naruto slipped away again. Originally, Naruto planned to practice his swordsmanship, but after sensing the strangeness of the living steel, his attention was successfully diverted. Naruto took out the remaining 900 grams of living steel from the sword forging. Inject chakra into it and control its shape? The living steel didn't move at all. Then how did the Kusanagi clan control the living steel into a rune? Chakra smelted the fire element and then used chakra to control it? Or perhaps a bloodline limit that could control the shape of metal? Naruto thought of little Gunny. After reactivating his ID card, Naruto planned to call Gunny out so that the two of them could study it together. Little Gunny knew sealing techniques and the steel release bloodline limit that could control metals. If it worked, Naruto could try to fuse Gunny's bloodline limit with his bloodline limit. Then, would he become the person who could forge a divine weapon like the Kusanagi sword? Just thinking about it made him excited. Naruto logged into his account and activated it. But just as Naruto was about to look for little Gunny, a warning flashed on the control panel. He opened the panel. A 3D map appeared in front of Naruto's eyes. But the map was only two-dimensional. Because the map didn't have a full scan. It also used a hand-drawn map that wasn't very accurate in the past. On the map, at the border of the Fire Country, there was a red dot marked on a forest area. There was also a large exclamation mark above the red dot. What's this? Naruto couldn't figure out what it was for a while. But there was nothing marked on it. Naruto pulled up the operation log and found that it was set by him. The date. Naruto suddenly remembered what it was. It was the locator seal he placed on Kakuzu in the Rain Country. It was a locator seal that only Kakuzu's chakra would transmit a signal to him. The strength of the signal and the distance it could travel was determined by the amount of chakra Kakuzu used. Kakuzu was in the Fire Country, but he could receive the signal from the Snow Country. He must have risked his life. Who could make Kakuzu risk his life? Naruto immediately called up the Otopi satellite. He muttered in his heart, I hope it's not Tsunade. If it is, I hope Tsunade is fine. Chapter 443. System Notification. Big Fat Satellite has been successfully activated. System Notification. Chakra supply chain has been successfully switched. System Notification. Target has been locked. Naruto stared at the control panel in front of him and waited for the information from Big Fat Satellite. Naruto, will you lend me your body for a minute if I hold on for 1 minute? Little Nine inserted chakra into the spiritual network while negotiating. Naruto quickly replied, yeah, same as last time. Both of them were ready, but the red dot on the map disappeared. System Notification. Location information is no longer available. Target cannot be locked. System Notification. Please fill in the correct location information. F*CK. Naruto couldn't help but curse. Kakuzu stopped using chakra. What happened? Did Kakuzu already end the battle? Then what was the result? Did Kakuzu get killed? Or did Kakuzu get rid of the enemy? The former didn't matter, but who was the enemy? Naruto manually re-entered the coordinates. Because it wasn't tracking, Big Fat Satellite switched to blind scanning mode. Then, Big Fat Satellite sent a picture. In a snowy forest, there were mountains, trees, and snow, but there was no one. Naruto moved the satellite's scanning position on the control panel. But what he saw was just more mountains. It could be said that the slightest mistake could lead to a huge error. 5 minutes later, Naruto, who had watched the snow for 5 minutes, had to stop scanning. He began to think of other ways to obtain information about Kakuzu. For example, the little flying squirrel. Rain Country. Akatsuki's residential area. The little flying squirrel, who had been clamoring to hibernate since winter, suddenly sat up. Deidara, who was combing his hair, was so scared that he accidentally pulled out a few strands of hair. Weren't you hibernating? Why are you up again? Could it be you had a nightmare? Then what nightmare did you have? Tell me about it so I can laugh. Perhaps Dead Ale had been alone for too long, but when he saw the little flying squirrel wake up, he began to blabber non-stop. The little flying squirrel stared at Deidara with its dead fish eyes. Or, are you hungry? Dylan asked cautiously with the comb still on his head. Naruto looked at Dead Ale, combing his hair in front of a mirror at home in the middle of the day. How coquettish is that? It could be said that she was extremely flirtatious, right? However, he was indeed a little hungry. To be precise, he was very hungry. I'm hungry, where's the food? Naruto loosened his nose. The smell came from its body. Naruto lowered its head. Then, she saw a pile of delicious food on its bed. All kinds of nuts, and bread? Naruto picked it up and looked at the production date. It was very early, a week ago. TSK, Dead Ale is so considerate. Zila. Naruto opened the packaging, grabbed a piece with his tiny claws, and ate it gracefully. No mission today? Naruto asked casually. Dead Ale tied his braid and replied, there are very few missions after winter. There's almost nothing to do. Naruto chewed on the bread. He drank a few mouthfuls of water. It was still juice, and it was also fresh. It was placed on his window. No one else has a mission? Naruto asked casually. In fact, he wanted to lead the topic to Kakuzu, who was out on a mission. Then it succeeded. Dead Ale replied, No, 2 poor fools were sent out by the boss. I don't know which barren mountain they are in now. Naruto continued to ask, What are they doing? Isn't there no mission in winter? Dead Ale casually said what he knew. They are looking for a guy named Tsunade. She is a very powerful medical ninja. The boss wants her to join us. Tsunade. It's really what I'm afraid of. So, what's the result? Kakuzu didn't come back. Dead Ale definitely didn't know. The little flying squirrel suddenly stopped eating. Dead Ale was puzzled. What's wrong? The bread doesn't taste good? Naruto came back to his senses, took a big sip of juice, and replied, No. I choked a little. Naruto finished the bread in his hand and drank the drink. He was not in the mood to eat, so he lay down and closed his eyes. Dead Ale couldn't help but say, Are you going to hibernate again? Naruto replied, No, I want to sleep for a while. Then Naruto went offline. The spiritual body returned to Fugu's spiritual world. In the rain country, Dead Ale was speechless as he looked at the little flying squirrel who fell asleep. He muttered, Am I really not raising a pig? In the Great Snow Mountain Laboratory, Naruto's spiritual body floated out of Fugu's body. 5 minutes are up. Where did you go? Naruto called 9 Tails through the spiritual link. Naruto was very uneasy now, so he came back to calm down and avoid being discovered by Dead Ale. Tsunade should be fine, right? Tsunade must be fine. Even if she can't win, she can definitely run away. No matter what, Tsunade is one of the Sannin and his teacher. 9 Tails replied, I'm being pestered by a woman. She keeps asking me if I don't like her anymore. I said I'm not you, and she said she's looking for me. What's going on? I had a human lover in the past? And didn't you say I'm a female fox? If you want to find someone, you should find a man, right? Did you lie to me again? This bad guy. Huh. Naruto felt that the amount of information was too much for his brain to react. He thought of a person, 04. You saw 04? Where are you now? Xiao Zhou replied, I'm in the kitchen. I was going to find something to eat, but this woman has been circling around me. It's annoying me. Naruto's spiritual body passed through the stone wall and floated directly to the kitchen. Xiao Zhou felt Naruto come to his side and complained, Can these 5 minutes not count? I haven't eaten yet. Naruto entered his body and took over. In the past, Naruto could be seen from his pupils when he switched, but now there was almost no difference. Naruto closed his eyes for a bit, then opened them again. He looked at 04 and said, Xiao Zhou lost her memory. She doesn't remember you, and she's a tailed beast. You two can't be together. 04 stared blankly at Naruto, then pouted and left. Switched back again? I'll ask him myself the next time it's him. Naruto stared blankly at 04's back and wondered, she left just like that? Is she really able to sense your presence? Xiao Zhou said unhappily, how would I know? To be honest, I also pretended to be you and said something similar, but that girl didn't believe me at all. If you ask me, that girl is a bit evil. Huh? Xiao Zhou continued to ask, you still haven't told me about my past. Didn't you say I was a female fox? How did I get involved with this little girl? How should he explain this question? How about I re-record your past memories for you? Original memories? How could that be? Of course it would be a deleted version. In order to prevent Nine Tails from getting close to Hinata, Nine Tails had to remember that Xiao Zhou was a super cute girl. Nine Tails refused. No, I am me, she is her, who wants her memories. If that girl comes to bother me again, I'll bite her to death. But, you're lying to me, right? I'm a boy, right? I can hear it from her words. Xiao Zhou questioned Naruto. Naruto took a deep breath. Had this day finally come? Naruto said seriously, Xiao Zhou, I won't re-record your memories. How about I choose an excerpt from your past memories for you to see? How about it? This way, watching from a third person's perspective won't affect you much. You're still you, a completely different firework. Xiao Zhou hesitated for a moment before agreeing, about that girl? Okay, let me see. Chapter 444. After the excerpt of Nine Tails' memory was played, Nine Tails fell into silence. He muttered to himself, so, I lied to that girl? Naruto nodded seriously and said, to a certain extent, yes. An ambiguous answer could avoid the lie detection of soul perception. This was Naruto's experience of lying to Nine Tails many times. Then, he ran away. That. You can deal with your own matters. After all, you're a big girl. Well, I'll go first. With that said, Naruto's spiritual body went into the pufferfish's body without looking back. In the country of rain, the little flying squirrel, who had just fallen asleep, suddenly sat up like a zombie. Then, he giggled like a severely mentally ill person. Deidara, who had nothing better to do, was once again shocked. Did you dream of something funny? Deidara was dumbfounded. At this time, the puppy in his hand had been pulled out into a giraffe in his excitement just now. Naruto continued to laugh. Wow. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. I'm dying of laughter. It's so funny. As he spoke, Naruto's furry body was still hitting the bed and rolling around. Then, he accidentally fell to the ground. The laughter stopped abruptly, but it was quickly picked up by Deidara. Deidara was stunned by the cuteness of his flying squirrel that fell off the bed. Naruto stared at Deidara with his dead fish eyes for a long time before Deidara gradually stopped laughing. Ahem, what were you so happy about in your dream just now? Deidara felt that the atmosphere was a little awkward and decided to change the topic. However, Naruto didn't reply. He turned around and twisted his furry body back to the bed. Then, after holding it in for a while, he couldn't help but laugh again. The scene that Naruto selected for Nine Tails just now was the scene of Nine Tails and 04 hugging and kissing. However, the psychological activity was changed by Naruto. Nine Tails' mental activity was changed by Naruto into that he was a girl. Then, he used Naruto's body to tease 04. This memory was very cleverly altered. Naruto had prepared it so that Nine Tails would treat him as a girl. Naruto laughed heartily. However, after a while, he stopped laughing. He thought of his teacher, Tsunade-sama. Are you okay? Dead Ale looked at his own mouse with a dumbfounded expression. Naruto lowered his head and began to eat unhappily. Actually, he felt like laughing, but his teacher's life and death were still unknown. Wasn't it too inhumane for him to be so happy? So, it was better to endure it. The sky gradually darkened at night. When Naruto ate the whole bed of winter snacks that Deidara had prepared for him, he finally received news from Kakuzu. The news came from Nagato, who summoned everyone for a meeting with the Akatsuki's ring. After the meeting, Deidara hurriedly put on his clothes. "What's wrong?" Naruto asked. Deidara put on his trench coat and then checked the clay backpack. Scorpion was faster than Deidara. Dang 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 had already knocked on the door. Naruto jumped, stretched his limbs, and glided to the door handle. Then, he stepped on the door frame with his other foot and opened the door wide. "Good evening, Scorpion Senpai." Naruto's attitude toward Scorpion was obviously different from Deidara's. This also made Deidara's small eyes stare at him with resentment. Scorpion wondered, "Aren't you hibernating?" Naruto smiled and said, I was going to hibernate, but I was bored after sleeping for a long time, so I got up and walked around." Scorpion looked at him blankly and replied with one word, "Oh." Naruto asked again, "Is there a mission?" Scorpion replied, "Hasn't Deidara told you yet? 2 people who went out on a mission had a problem and are asking for help." Naruto hurriedly asked, "Is it Kakuzu?" Scorpion nodded, "And Haiden." "Something happened to Kakuzu and Haiden? So, Tsunade is okay?" Naruto's heart finally calmed down. But, since Tsunade has the upper hand, how does she let Haiden and Kakuzu survive? Deidara dressed neatly and looked at the little flying squirrel who was wandering around the door holding the door handle. "You continue to sleep at home? Or go out together?" Naruto decisively chose the latter. Go out together. Outside the apartment, Deidara stuffed his hand into the clay bag and then heard the sound of his mouth swallowing the clay. "Since I'm in a hurry, I'll take you flying." When Deidara's hand was full of clay, Deidara began to perform his ninjutsu. Earth Release Clay Secret Technique, C2 Giant Dragon. The clay in Deidara's hand blew up like a balloon and turned into a dragon-shaped strange bird 6 or 7 meters high. "How is it? Isn't my dragon handsome beyond compare?" Scorpion said plainly, "I'm in a hurry." Deidara's mouth twitched, and he looked at his own mouse again. Naruto gave him face and didn't mock him this time. In the end, Deidara could only control the clay doll dejectedly and took Scorpion to the C2 Giant Dragon clay doll. "Let's go. I hope those 2 poor guys can still hold on." Forget it, you'll know when you get there." Deidara wanted to tell Naruto something shocking. But he didn't know if he ran out of words or wanted to whet Naruto's appetite, but he stopped halfway. Finish the sentence. However, Deidara opened his mouth and replied, "You'll know when you see it later." This answer. What a pain in the ass. Naruto could only look at Scorpion. Scorpion nodded and said, "The state of those 2 is indeed a bit special." Then Scorpion didn't say anything. Naruto couldn't help it and sighed, "Senior Scorpion, you've learned bad things from Deidara." The giant dragon clay doll flapped its huge wings in the air and leaped past one town after another. Its speed was very fast, but it still took 3 hours to reach the destination. "I hope those 2 guys are still alive," Deidara muttered again. The giant dragon clay doll that arrived at the destination glided down. Then everyone soon found a broken arm in a pile of rubble. The broken arm with the word, "Bay," on its finger. "Only one arm?" Naruto asked strangely. Deidara shook his head. "No. This is Kakuzu." Then, under Naruto's surprised eyes, Deidara greeted the arm. "Are you still alive?" "Kakuzu." Something strange had happened. That hand had moved. It bounced up from the ground and shot at Naruto like a cannonball. Attack. What's going on? Why did Kakuzu attack him? Naruto couldn't figure it out, but he didn't let it go. With a wave of his hand, a wind blade slashed over. Then, the arm was cut in 2. But it was still moving. Naruto was about to continue, but Deidara stopped him. "Wait. Attack again and he'll die." Chakra resonated with Naruto's body, and the flying squirrel version of multiplication was activated. The palm-sized flying squirrel expanded to 5 meters tall at a speed visible to the naked eye. It looked down at the arm in front of it and said, "If you show off in front of me again, believe it or not, I'll sit you to death." Black tentacles surged out from the place where the severed limb had been, and the severed limb was reattached. It didn't continue to attack Naruto. At this time, a voice came from the other side. "Save me first. That guy can't talk without a mouth." Fly Dan. Chapter 445. Looking for Hayden's voice, everyone found Hayden's head. This scene at night was really horrifying. A head on the ground looking at you. And it can talk? Naruto looked at Hayden's neck. His vocal cords can still be used? Doesn't the sound have to be accompanied by air vibration? Even the body below is gone, let alone the lungs that provide air. Well, chakra is omnipotent. Under the perception enchantment, Naruto found that Hayden was using chakra to vibrate his vocal cords. "My body was dismembered and buried by that crazy woman, Tsunade. Can you help me dig them back?" "Huh? Dismembered and buried? Wasn't that a little too careless? Why didn't you bury the head too, or blow it up?" Naruto couldn't help but ask, "How did you survive?" Naruto looked down at the head on the ground. Naruto had an impulse to crush the head with one foot. Hayden's eyes were raised to the extreme, but he didn't see Naruto's rat face. But he still said proudly, "With Lord Diablo here, I am immortal." Naruto raised his foot and stepped on Hayden's head. Hayden's intact cervical spine suddenly bent and exerted force, dodging with a grunt. He shouted, "Are you trying to murder me?" Naruto replied, "Aren't you immortal? I suddenly want to try and crush your head to see if you're still immortal." Hayden was frightened and said in horror, "If my head explodes, I'll die." "Stop." Naruto retracted his foot, squatted down, and asked curiously, "The person who dismembered and buried you must know that you can be repaired, but why didn't he bury your head?" Hayden's head was lying on the ground at this time. From this angle, he could finally see Naruto's cute rat head. "Nonsense. Of course, I disguised myself well. Otherwise, if my head really exploded, wouldn't I be dead?" "Don't ask these useless questions. Hurry up and help me dig out my body." "Deidara, don't you care about your pet?" Deadale scratched his head awkwardly. This." Then Deadale didn't have to answer because Naruto kicked out and sent Hayden's head flying like a ball. I'll kill you. This is blasphemy." Hayden's head flew quite far away because Naruto kicked it with the same strength as the kick, but it was not difficult to tell that Hayden was not kicked to death from the thunderous roar in the distance. "Sigh. Why did you kick it so far? Hurry up and pick it up." Deadale looked at Naruto, but Naruto didn't even look at him. Deadale had no choice but to pick up Fei Duan's head himself. This scene had a special meaning in Scorpion's eyes. He thought of the village people who used to play bone-throwing games with dogs. This pair of master and servant is a little strange. You're finished. Wait for me to recover." After Hayden's head was picked up, his mouth was still a little unforgiving. Naruto lowered his head, licked the corner of his mouth with his tongue, and said, "I don't know if you can still live after I eat you." Hayden opened his mouth, and finally turned his head honestly and said to Deadale, 10 meters ahead, my upper body is buried there." Deadale nodded. He formed a seal with his hand, and the earth waves rolled. Not only Hayden's upper body, but other parts were also turned out. "It seems that there's still a missing hand?" Looking at Hayden strangely assembling himself little by little like a robot, Deadale noticed that Hayden was still missing an arm. "Left arm." Hayden complained, "That guy Tsunade took my arm away." Listening to what he said before he left. "It seems that he wants to study it." Deadale looked at Hayden's empty sleeve. "Your ring is gone too?" Hayden grinned, opened his mouth, and put the ring on his tongue. Then Hayden put the ring back on. "I felt something was wrong, so I hid the ring in my mouth. Why else would I ask for support?" Hayden got up and walked to Kakuzu's arm, and said, "Hey! Hurry up and give me back my heart." As soon as Hayden spoke, Naruto noticed that inside the arm, there was a heart wrapped in the black tentacles. "That's Hayden's heart? The perception enchantment swept through Hayden, but Hayden's chest was empty. Kakuzu wrote on the ground with his finger, "Lend it to me first, and I'll return it to you when I find a replacement." Hayden said impatiently, "Then hurry up and find it. I'm incomplete without a heart, and how can I pray to evil God if I'm incomplete?" "An incomplete one?" Naruto couldn't help but interrupt. "You're still missing an arm, so it seems that you don't have to do that troublesome prayer in the future." For a moment, Hayden's body was petrified, and he screamed, "How can I? How can I not pray to evil God?" Then he said to himself like crazy, "It's all that damn woman's fault. It's all that damn woman's fault. It's all that damn woman's fault. I want my arm. Naruto blinked, thinking that Hayden wouldn't be so crazy, right? However, things developed beyond Naruto's expectations. Just as Hayden muttered about his arm, his gaze fell on Kakuzu's arm. Then, he picked it up and attached it to his body. F***ck. What kind of operation was this? Kakuzu also struggled. Hayden suddenly pulled his heart out of Kakuzu's arm as if he had gone crazy. "Give it back to me. My heart." Without his heart, the tentacles in Kakuzu's arm began to wither. If this continued, it seemed that Kakuzu would die. Would Kakuzu give up? How could it be? Don't underestimate a guy who turned himself into a monster in order to live. Their survival instinct was definitely top-notch. It was impossible to give up on life. Those black tentacles shrank into one and then pierced toward Hayden's heart. Kakuzu and Hayden fought, and Deidara looked troubled. "What should we do? Do you need help?" Sasori continued to watch and didn't answer. Naruto was also watching. Deidara could only shut his mouth. The black tentacle shot into Hayden's heart. It was extremely fast. Hayden didn't dodge. He shouted, "You want to take my heart? That's absolutely impossible." Then, Hayden grabbed his arm and pressed it on his broken limb. What was he doing? Then, the two of them stopped fighting. A minute later, Kakuzu's arm merged into Hayden's body. Hayden laughed wildly. "Ha ha ha. Now I'm whole again." However, what surprised everyone was Hayden's newly merged hand suddenly raised and slapped Hayden's mouth. The slap was so loud that Hayden's head was almost sent flying. "You actually dare to hit me?" Hayden grabbed his out-of-control left hand with his right hand. Black tentacles suddenly darted out of his space-time left hand and slapped Hayden's mouth again. Then, Hayden and his left hand fought for an entire hour. Win or lose. Did such a situation exist? Anyway, Hayden was beaten black and blue. Deidara, Sasori, and Naruto, who came to rescue him, stood aside and watched in a daze. Then, Naruto suddenly thought of something. "By the way, you don't need 2 rings now, right? Give me 1. Kakuzu and Hayden stopped at the same time and looked at Naruto. Attack. Because Naruto was wearing a ring with the word North on it, he also received an invitation. Everyone gathered on the fingers of the Giza statue, the heretic demon statue's right hand. On the thumb, the word 0 flashed on the fingertip, representing Nagato's Tendo Pain, Yahiko. On the index finger, the word blue flashed on the fingertip, Deidara. On the middle finger, the word white flashed on Konan. On the ring finger, the word red flashed on Uchiha Itachi. On the little finger, the word black flashed. On the left hand of the Giza statue, the image on the little finger was empty, and the word void was dim and didn't light up. On the ring finger, the word south flashed on Kisame Kisame. On the middle finger, the word north flashed on Naruto's little flying squirrel. On the index finger, the word 3 flashed on Fudon. On the thumb, the word jade flashed on Sasori. 10 fingers, 9 rings, 9 images. The only one missing was the seat represented by the void ring that was taken away by Orochimaru. Everyone gathered. Kisame stared at the chubby little flying squirrel and said, "Huh? Isn't this Deidara's rebellious pet? Is it parasitized by Kakuzu?" As soon as Kisame spoke, everyone looked over. Naruto's eyelids twitched and stared at Kisame. Stinky shock. "Who are you calling a pet?" Kisame blinked his eyes. "Are you that rat?" "Not Kakuzu." "What about Kakuzu? Why are you holding Kakuzu's ring?" Naruto said, "Why do you care? Who are you?" Kisame looked at Deidara. "Haven't you trained your pet yet? Do you want me to train it instead of you?" Seeing that the meeting was about to quarrel, Tendo Pain said, "In order to save time, let me briefly explain the specifics. Simply put, Kakuzu and Haiden's mission failed. Tsunade refused to join the Akatsuki organization. Now Kakuzu's body is destroyed, and he is relying on Haiden's heart to maintain his life. As for Kakuzu's ring, and his seat in the organization..." Nagato looked at Haiden as he spoke. The segmented left-hand image was distorted, and Kakuzu's face was propped up from the arm. "I didn't give up my ring. It was Deidara's damn pet who stole my ring." Without waiting for Naruto to speak, Haiden said, "No, I gave it away. Now Kakuzu is no longer the Kakuzu of the past. He is my left hand, so that ring is useless." As he spoke, Haiden's image suddenly floated, and then with a flash, Haiden's image disappeared. Obviously, Haiden and Kakuzu were fighting again. Everyone was silent. 5 seconds later, Haiden came online again, but this time it was a bloated Haiden, and he roared, "Damn Haiden! I..." Before he finished speaking, the image disappeared again. Everyone was silent. 5 seconds later, Haiden came online again. This time it was Haiden. He touched his head and smiled. "Sorry, my left hand is a bit naughty." Then with a snap, Haiden disconnected again. Tendo Pain said, "The ownership of Kakuzu's ring. Let's put it aside first and talk about it tomorrow. Now let's talk about how to deal with Tsunade." Nagato looked at Naruto, the little flying squirrel, and didn't let Naruto leave, and continued, "I decided. I will personally hunt down Tsunade." Hearing this sentence, Naruto's heart jumped. Nagato wants to personally hunt down Tsunade. This is a big problem. It's not surprising that Tsunade can kill Naruto. With Tsunade's strength, as long as she's ruthless, it's not difficult to deal with the immortal duo, but Nagato. He's a fierce man who can kill Jiraiya. Tsunade is in danger. Conan said, "You want to do it yourself? Do you need me to go with you?" Conan's voice was cold with a hint of respect. Nagato replied, "No, you stay. I want..." Nagato looked at Uchiha Itachi. "Let Itachi go with me." Hearing this sentence, Naruto's heart that was already half cold suddenly became cold. "Are you kidding me? Nagato and Uchiha Itachi?" Now that Itachi is at his peak, he's not sure if he can fight Naruto alone. Moreover, Itachi has a Sharingan with Kotoama Tsukumi. If possible, Naruto doesn't want to be enemies with this guy. Tsunade is going to die. Should I talk to Tsunade? Persuade her to join the Akatsuki. Chapter 447. Tendo Pain and Itachi teamed up to hunt down Tsunade, so it's definitely not going to work. The only way now is to find Tsunade before Tendo Pain Yahiko. ZZ. On the left index finger of Gedo Mazo, the number 3 lit up again, and Haiden's image came back again. Haiden's image pressed his left hand with his right hand and said, "Did I miss something?" Everyone's attention returned to Haiden. Tendo Pain Yahiko asked, "Tell us about Tsunade." Haiden thought for a moment, and the image shook. "She's really a crazy woman." Kisame couldn't help but complain. "I asked you to tell me specific information, such as what kind of weapon she uses and what kind of ninjutsu she's good at." Haiden looked at Kisame with a wry smile on his face. "You didn't meet her. That woman is a monster. She has no weapon. She attacks with her fists. Her strength is amazing. My body and Kakuzu's body were directly blown up by her fists. Furthermore, he's able to heal himself. His healing speed is even faster than mine. I wonder if that woman is also a disciple of the evil god. Zetsu, who was silent for a long time, said, Tsunade can't be a disciple of the evil god. Her self-healing ability should come from her medical ninjutsu. It seems, she's really good at medical ninjutsu. Haydn turned to look at Zetsu and said unhappily, Hey, you're the one who collects information, right? You let us go without collecting information. I almost died. Zetsu said sarcastically, Didn't you claim to be immortal? And I don't see you pay much attention to my information. Haydn curled his lips. No matter what, I'm still a wood leaf Sannin. I should collect more information when I go. At this time, Haydn completely forgot what he said in the past about wood leaf Sannin. Tendo Pain Yahiko looked at Haydn with a dull face. Specific information. Fei Duan was taken aback. He obediently shut his mouth and began to think hard. Although Tsunade was strong at the beginning, she wasn't that powerful. Kakuzu and I should have no problem dealing with her. But there was a diamond-shaped curse on her head. After that curse was activated, her strength suddenly increased. Something like that. Tsunade's projection appeared in front of Haydn's image. The Een seal on Tsunade's forehead was lifted, revealing a four-pointed star shape similar to a butterfly. In this state, Tsunade's speed, strength, and overall physical fitness have all increased. She destroyed my body once. But this is not her strongest state. As she spoke, the projection changed. When Tsunade's stomach was pierced by my sickle, she suddenly became violent and entered this mode. In this mode, her stomach that was pierced by my scythe healed in the blink of an eye. Pain of Tendo Yahiko nodded. Nothing else? Missile replied, No, she mainly used her fists throughout the battle. By the way, she also knows a kind of ninjutsu. That time, she didn't hit me with her fist, she just hit me with her palm. I suddenly lost control of my body. I wanted to continue slashing her with my scythe, but my body threw the scythe away. Naruto knew this move and had even used it on him before. It was called Chaotic Dash. Naruto also knows it now. The principle is to use chakra to simulate an electric field and disturb the human nervous system. After listening to Haydn's statement, Deidara couldn't help but say, Listening to you. Why does it feel like Orochimaru is doing that kind of thing? Isn't it called the curse seal mode? Did Tsunade and Orochimaru get together? Haydn shook his head and said, Different? The curse seal made by Orochimaru will cause the body to mutate after using it, but Tsunade looks normal and still looks the same. It should be a kind of jutsu, just like my death by blood. Pain Yahiko said, That's it, right? I got it. Pain Yahiko looked at Haydn's left hand and said, Are you going to do this? In the future. Together? Haydn replied, Yes, Kakuzu doesn't exist anymore. Now he's my left hand, I also gave him a new name, Xiao Zhua. What do you think? Isn't it very funny? As soon as Haydn finished speaking, Haydn's left hand suddenly exploded and slapped him in the face. But Haydn dodged it. You want to use the same move twice? Aren't you looking down on me too much? As he said that, a black tentacle suddenly sprang out from Haydn's left elbow and hit Haydn's crotch. Haydn's body instantly bent like a shrimp and cursed, Fuck. Fei Duan's image disappeared with a pa. After Fei Duan left, Kismet Ghost Shark burst into laughter. Then it caused a burst of laughter. Even Konan, who didn't smile, had a smile on her face. Pain Yahiko said, Okay, that's it for today. Pain Yahiko raised his hand and was about to cancel the jutsu, but Haydn came back again. Kakuzu asked me to bring a message, saying that he will take back the ring. Everyone looked at Haydn. Is Haydn scared? What happened? Flying Squirrel Naruto said, Come and get it if you have the ability, but next time I won't hold back. I've developed a new technique called Wind Juicer, and I've been wanting to find someone to try it out. Haydn was curious. Wind Juicer? That's a weird name. Is it a ninjutsu? Flying Squirrel nodded again and again. I use it to make watermelon juice. I think it would be interesting to change it to a person. Haydn nodded, but no one knew if he understood. Pain Yahiko said, You seem to have forgotten that the organization strictly forbids private fights, but considering the particularity of this matter. Before I leave tomorrow, I will organize a public competition within the organization, and the winner will get the ring. Yahiko looked at Flying Squirrel Naruto. Then he turned to look at Haydn's left hand. The loser. If it's Kakuzu, then you can keep it this way. I feel that if you cooperate well, your strength will improve, and the next time you meet Tsunade, you won't lose so badly. Let Kakuzu and Haydn keep it this way? The others couldn't help but look at Haydn. Haydn laughed heartily. I think that's a good idea. Surprisingly, Kakuzu didn't use violence against Haydn this time. Haydn suddenly froze. Wait. He seems to have something to say. Haydn's control changed to Kakuzu. This time, because Haydn took the initiative to exchange control, Haydn's appearance didn't change much. His face didn't become ferocious. Okay, I agree. But, if I have to fight tomorrow, I can't cultivate a new body, so I can only use Haydn's body. In that case, is it okay? Haydn and Kakuzu were together, so there was a possibility of joining forces. Their strength was definitely not as simple as 1 + 1. Pain Yahiko looked at Flying Squirrel Naruto. Do you agree? Naruto cracked the corner of his mouth, revealing 2 cute white teeth, and said, 1 is dead, 2 is dead. Let's do it together. Chapter 448. 1 is sitting to death, 2 is also sitting to death. Let's do it together. Naruto said in the meeting with a heroic spirit. However, after the meeting, in the vast snow mountain, Fei Duan was carrying a broken scythe and looking for other parts that were torn apart. The little flying squirrel Naruto ran behind Fei Duan. That. Big brother Fei Duan. I think this hand is quite suitable for you. Fei Duan turned his head, raised his left hand, and punched out of thin air. He replied, Well, it's very suitable. I feel that this hand of mine is full of power now. The little flying squirrel chuckled mischievously and waved at Fei Duan, whispering an invitation into his ear. Fei Duan lowered his head curiously and leaned over. Naruto whispered, That. I can only have this hand forever if I win. Do you think we should? After saying that, the little flying squirrel winked a few times with its silver-gray face. Fei Duan understood and gave a thumbs up. The sneaky whispering of the two fell into the eyes of Deidara and Sasori on the side. Deidara said with emotion, My family's mouse is going against the heavens. Sasori reminded him in a low voice, You can say this in your heart. If you are heard and make the little guy unhappy, well, according to the bet, you have to call him Big Brother now. Deidara's expression froze, and then it changed into a standard expression of eating shit. After the conspiracy with Fei Duan, the little flying squirrel Naruto happily bounced back. His big ears flapped, and he looked like a fat rabbit. What are you talking about? Deidara quickly changed the topic and said, Nothing. I'm just a little worried about you. The little flying squirrel Naruto blinked. Worried about me? Deidara's expression became serious, and said seriously, Don't underestimate Kakuzu. Even the half-crippled Kakuzu is far stronger than ordinary Jounin. The little flying squirrel Naruto nodded. Oh. Deidara thought for a moment. Let's go back first. When we get back, we'll think of a countermeasure together. Didale's C2 Mega Dragon Clay Man carried everyone back to the Rain Country. Before leaving, Naruto waved at Fei Duan enthusiastically, and the two winked at each other. You want Fei Duan to go easy? Deidale and Sasori both understood Naruto's intention. Naruto replied, That's right. Otherwise it would be hard to win. Deidale nodded. With Fei Duan's personality, he can indeed throw the game, but don't hold too much hope. Sasori continued, Indeed, the most that guy can do is to not attack. You still have to face Kakuzu, who is controlling Hayden's body. Naruto smiled and said, "Then Senior Scorpion, what do you think are my chances of winning?" Scorpion stared at Naruto and suddenly asked, "Have you mastered all the seals I taught you?" Naruto nodded. Scorpion pondered for a moment. "Well, then you can use it tomorrow. With that core, you can use Chakra's line to control the puppet. I'll teach you a few simple moves, and then, add this." Saying that, Scorpion handed Naruto a scroll. "This is..." Naruto took the scroll and looked at the name on it, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Fei Liuhu. Dedale's eyes also lit up. But soon he frowned again. "You plan to let the little guy learn the puppet technique? Only one night. Is it reliable?" Scorpion replied, "Fei Liuhu has a lot of projectile hidden weapons. Activating these hidden weapons doesn't require exquisite techniques." Hearing this, Dedale's brows relaxed. "In that case, I also have an idea. How about I make a few more clay men and let him carry them?" Scorpion said uncertainly, Isn't that too suspicious of cheating?" Naruto righteously refused. "Yes, that's too suspicious of cheating. I want to beat him fair and square." Fair and square. If he didn't see the scene of Rat and Fei Duan winking at each other, Fei Duan might really believe this sentence. Now, only a fool would believe it. After rejecting Dead Ale, Naruto took out the scroll and put a curse seal on his body. It was the kind of curse seal on the core of Scorpion's body. The location of the curse seal was the same as the location of Naruto's body, on his left hand. "Senior Scorpion, do you see any problem with my curse seal?" Scorpion checked it and praised, "Very good, no problem. You've mastered it better than expected." Of course, he could also upgrade it to a double or triple core. But he couldn't use it now, it was too conspicuous. Naruto threw the Fei Liuhu scroll that Scorpion gave him, "Then let's go and train." Saying that, the chubby little flying squirrel and Scorpion left one after the other. Dead Ale was stunned for a moment and also followed. But Scorpion stopped and stopped. Puppet Master's methods are not taught to outsiders. Huh? Dead Ale looked at Rat in a daze, speechless for a while. Not taught to outsiders? If not taught to outsiders, why did he teach it to Idiot? Could it be Scorpion was going to take Idiot for himself? As the abandoned poop picker, Dead Ale stood in the night wind and felt very miserable. After leaving Dead Ale, Scorpion asked, "Dedale's proposal was not bad, why did you refuse?" Naruto smiled mischievously, "I have a better plan." Scorpion curiously asked, "What plan?" Naruto mysteriously made a silent gesture and said with a mischievous smile, "Keep it a secret, you'll know tomorrow." Scorpion raised his eyebrows and didn't ask much. "All right, summon Fei Liuhu now." Naruto opened the scroll. The seal on the scroll wasn't encrypted. Then Naruto made a hand seal. With a bang, accompanied by a burst of smoke, Fei Liuhu appeared in front of Naruto. Just like the previous Fei Liuhu, there were no changes, just some simple repairs. Scorpion began to introduce Fei Liuhu to Naruto. At the same time, in Fei Duan's bedroom, Kakuzu's arms twisted into a human shape. He said, "You cannot help me, but you can't hold me back, or I will kill you." Fei Duan was surprised. "Huh? You can talk?" The twisted arms formed a human shape and said, "I just imitated the structure of the vocal cords to make a vocal organ." After answering Fei Duan, Kakuzu emphasized, "I haven't fallen to the point where I need help to deal with a mouse, but if you hold me back, I will definitely kill you." Fei Duan waved his hand, "Don't worry, I won't affect your battle." Kakuzu stared at Fei Duan for a long time, then his body softened and turned back into a black tentacle, intending to shrink back. Fei Duan said, "In exchange, you have to promise me one thing." Kakuzu turned back into Fei Duan's left hand. The back of the left hand cracked open a mouth. "What is it?" Fei Duan said very seriously, "In the future, no matter what, you can't attack me there." "Where is there?" "Of course, it's between the legs." Fei Duan's legs were still soft from Kakuzu's attack. Kakuzu replied, "Ah. I know, you think I want to touch you there?" Chapter 449. On the day of the battle between Naruto and Kakuzu, the sky of the rain country was cloudless, and the sun shone brightly on the white snow, which was a bit dazzling. "Are you ready?" Before the battle, Deidara looked more nervous than Naruto. Naruto gave Deidara a confident smile. "Absolutely no problem." Deidara took out a small backpack and gave it to Naruto. "This is the clay bomb I made. You don't have to worry about anything. Just unzip it, and the little guys inside will track Kakuzu." Naruto didn't take it. He straightened his back and said proudly, "I want to defeat him with my own strength." Deidara looked at his rat with a complicated feeling in his heart. Does idiot really want to use his own strength? Deidara looked at Sasori, who was silent on the side. "How is it going on your side? Did you teach jutsu?" Scorpion replied ambiguously, "Yes, I think so. It shouldn't be a big problem." "What do you mean by yes?" Deidara only felt uneasy listening to him. They came to the location of the battle. Many people have already arrived. Kisame came over and said to Naruto, "Little rat, if you win, I won't blame you for calling me a stinky shark, but if you lose, even if your master protects you, I will beat you up." Although Kisame's words sounded like a threat, his tone was much kinder, and there was a trace of appreciation on his face. It should be an acknowledgement of Naruto's courage. However, Little Rat didn't know what was wrong with him. Maybe he was annoyed by Kisame's words, so he sneered, "Hey, you want to beat me? Try me if you have the ability." Kisame's mouth couldn't help but twitch. It was the first time he saw such a disgusting ninja beast. Naruto ignored Kisame's twitching face. His eyes swept around. Uchiha Itachi was sitting on the top of a tall building, looking at this side from a distance. Not far away, Yahiko Tendo Pain and Konan, who had a paper flower on her head, were also standing high. He was definitely there as well. On a tree, the head of a pitcher plant looked over. He didn't see Obito, who was pretending to be Madara. Everyone else was there. Fei Duan had been sitting cross-legged on the competition field for a long time. After Naruto arrived, he stood up and said with a smile, "Yo, little guy, you're finally here. I was worried that you might run away." The one who said this was Fei Duan. Naruto replied, "Sorry, I trained all night and woke up a little late this morning." It was a very humble answer. However, Fei Duan was definitely not optimistic about this sentence. Could he improve his strength just by practicing for one night? If it was so easy to improve one's strength, there would be ninjas everywhere in this world. This way, there wouldn't be a situation where there were only 2 or 3 big cats in each village. Fei Duan thought for a moment and mouthed, "Be careful." He didn't finish his sentence. There should be more to it, but Haiden's face suddenly twisted. It was obvious that Kakuzu was trying to stop them. Haiden relinquished control, and Kakuzu said, "Since you're here, let's begin." He looked up at the organizer and the referee, Pain Yahiko. Yahiko said expressionlessly, "Then let's begin. There are no restrictions." "No restrictions?" "Then the implied meaning is a fight to the death." Naruto shot, and a wind blade under the guidance of the hairy mouse claw slashed towards Kakuzu. Kakuzu made a hand seal. Fire release. Kakuzu Jutsu. A fireball fell on the ground and instantly exploded, forming a sea of fire that attacked Naruto. Naruto's wind blade met the sea of fire and was swallowed in an instant. The wind helped the fire, and the sea of fire became more fierce. Fire release that can restrain the wind? Fei Duan can use fire release? Kakuzu's 5 elements ninjutsu require special heart support to launch. Naruto thought of Fei Duan's mouth. Is it possible that Kakuzu specifically transplanted a fire attribute heart to restrain the wind? Ha 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 ha. Your wind release is useless. This fire was specially prepared for you. Kakuzu grinned in the sea of fire. The waves of fire rolled and instantly covered Naruto. Was he directly hit by the fire? Many people outside the field frowned. If that's the case, he's too weak. Challenging Kakuzu with such a weak strength. He's only looking for death. Deidara was full of worry. Is that guy okay? Sasori was calm and replied, Did you forget that guy can also use Earth Release? Deidara was stunned. How could he forget this? It was because his idiot could use Earth Release that he wanted to teach him the secret technique of Earth Explosion. Deidara looked at the field again. His idiot was in the sea of fire. Deidara thought of a possibility, that maybe it's not the real body. At the same time, behind Fei Duan, there was a mocking sound. You prepared fire release for my wind release? Then, did you prepare the lightning escape for my earth escape? Several thorns of earth release came out from under Kakuzu's body. To be precise, those thorns were stabbed before Naruto opened his mouth, but Kakuzu's reaction was extremely fast. He jumped up, his arms turned into black tentacles, wrapped around the thorns, and propped up his body to avoid the thorns. Naruto laughed. Idiot. At this time, Philiu stuck his head out from the ground under Naruto, opened his mouth, and shot out poisonous needles that were as fine as a cow's hair. At this moment of crisis, Kakuzu changed the tentacles supporting his body from support to pull, and quickly fell to avoid the poisonous needles. However, this time, the thorns on the ground jumped up again. Kakuzu's tentacles rushed out again, wrapped around all the thorns that shot towards his body, and at the same time, crushed the thorns. In the first round of battle, no matter how you look at it, Kakuzu was much more embarrassed. In the stands, Kisame looked at Sasori. If I'm not mistaken, that little guy is using your Fei Liohu, right? It's also a puppet master? A mouse can use puppet jutsu. This made Kisame couldn't help but think. Could it be, this mouse is related to Wind Village? Sasori simply replied, Not really, I taught him puppet jutsu last night. Huh? Kisame looked at the stage again, and his stiff expression was quickly replaced by a smile. Then, this little guy is interesting, not simple. Deidara was very proud. Of course, not simple. Don't you know whose ninja beast it is? My flying squirrel is much more powerful than your sharks. Kisame shrugged and unexpectedly didn't refute. In the arena, Kakuzu's face was a little bit embarrassed. He was actually being beaten up by a rat. It was really shameful. Boy, you pissed me off. Kakuzu quickly made hand seals. Secret jutsu. Earth's grudge. It was different from the black tentacles just now. This time, Kakuzu's entire left hand turned into black tentacles, and there were so many of them that they covered the sky. Not only that, but it was also filled with the fire attribute chakra. What kind of ninjutsu is this? Naruto didn't know. Boy, you're dead. The tentacles that were as black as the sky formed a gigantic face. It was very oppressive. It seems, it's a bit difficult. Then, it's time to implement his super plan. In everyone's surprised eyes, the little flying squirrel Naruto suddenly bit his finger. Then he made a seal. Then he made hand seals. Summoning jutsu. The next moment, Deidara, with a confused face, was summoned to the arena. This is possible? Scorpion directly spurted out blood from his mouth. This is fighting with your own strength? No problem. Sasori's face was very bright. At the same time, everyone present was also dumbfounded. The ninja beast summoned its master to help in the fight? This mouse is good. Chapter 450. The scene of Dead Ale being summoned into the arena was really too comical. Even Pain Yahiko had a playful smile on his face. This ninja beast seems to have a good relationship with Deidara. Conan's smile was more vivid than Yahiko's. It should be very good. I have never seen a ninja beast that can summon a ninja to help in battle. Yahiko nodded. Well, and it seems to know puppet techniques, and it also uses Sasori's Hirajutsu. Conan frowned. So, do you want to adjust Sasori and Deidara's team? Akatsuki had two reasons for forming a team. First, It was to avoid being dictatorial. Second, to improve mission efficiency. Third, to supervise each other to prevent the Akatsuki's information from leaking. Therefore, two people who are too close to each other, to some extent, it means more risk. Yahiko was silent for a moment, then he replied, "You should pay more attention. Breaking up a team that has already formed a tacit understanding is a great loss to the overall combat power." Conan nodded and then asked, "So what about Haydn? If Kakuzu and Haydn use the same body, then they are one person, right?" Yahiko pondered for a moment. This winter, let's wait until their ninjutsu is integrated and their strength is improved." Xiao Nan nodded slightly, and the two of them returned their gazes to the battle below the stage. When Deidara went on the stage, the battle was no longer suspenseful. But Kakuzu didn't give up. "Deidara, you were summoned by a mouse. This is really beyond my expectation." Deidara didn't reply to Kakuzu's words and turned to look at Too Dumb. He asked, "Is this what you mean by fair?" Little Flying Squirrel Naruto nodded proudly. "That's right. Fair and square." Deidara's heart twitched. Fair and square cheating? However, summoning is a part of a ninja's strength, so it's reasonable. But why didn't he tell him earlier? He was worried all night and didn't sleep well last night. Deidara opened the clay bag on his waist. A strange bird flew out, and its body expanded rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it became a 5 or 6 meter behemoth. This was Deidara's C2 dragon clay doll. Kakuzu saw that Deidara didn't say anything and directly attacked, so he didn't admit defeat. Chakra erupted on his black tentacles, and the black tentacles instantly turned into a fire whip and hit Deidara's C2 dragon clay doll. Deidara's expression suddenly became fanatical. "Ha! What is he doing?" "Detonation." Flying Squirrel Naruto widened his eyes. The C2 Mega Dragon was less than 100 meters away from them. In other words, they are also in the explosion range. Deidara, this madman. Just when Naruto was about to escape with Earth Release, the dragon opened its mouth, and a group of self-exploding spiders was spat out. The C2 dragon didn't explode. Naruto's heart skipped a beat in fear. The black spiders and Kakuzu's fire whip met, and the explosion was like a firecracker. At the same time, the impact of the explosion was blocked by the C2 dragon clay doll. For a time, Deadale stood there with the aura of a man who could hold back 10,000 enemies. It was very reassuring and very handsome. Kakuzu was miserable. A number of black tentacles were sacrificed, barely blocking the explosion. There is no thunder attribute heart, otherwise, I will make these garbage things explode. Obviously, Kakuzu knew the weakness of Deidara's clay bomb. Haydn's consciousness couldn't help but complain, "When you merged with the fire attribute heart last night, I remember you said that a certain mouse was not worth mentioning at all." Kakuzu was in a bad mood and retorted, "Humph, if it wasn't for Deidara, the battle would have been over." Haydn continued to complain, "Summoning is a part of a ninja's strength." This sentence was right, and because it was right, it was particularly hurtful. Kakuzu said impatiently, "Aren't we one now? It's shameless enough for you to have an affair with an outsider, and you still want to talk about it?" Haydn said righteously, "Isn't it a pity to let you merge into my body? It's such a pity to miss such an excellent arm. What's more, I don't have the face to pray to the evil Sama." The explosion outside continued, and the communication between Kakuzu and Haydn continued. The pain of the tentacles being blown away made Kakuzu's expression distorted. "Hey, you should also help, the other party is not a mouse now." Haydn was surprised. "Are you asking me for help?" Kakuzu simply replied, "Well, if you win, I will still be in your body, and when I gather 5 more hearts, our strength will make a qualitative leap." Haydn was stunned for a moment, put away his playful expression, and said seriously, "Why?" Kakuzu replied, "After all, I can't win with my strength, can I? I don't want to lose too badly. What's more, I've always had a bold idea, that is, to replace the heart with 5 different chakra natures with 5 different Kekkei Genkai, but the rejection reaction is too strong, and the possibility of death is too high, so I haven't tried it yet. But with you, it's different. Your body is in a strange ritual. This ritual allows your body to stay alive no matter how much damage it suffers. With this characteristic of yours, I hope to complete my bold idea. There was one more sentence that Kakuzu didn't say. That was, he found that Haydn's soul was the core of the strange ritual. He needed Haydn's cooperation, otherwise it would be useless even if he occupied Haydn's body. In the spiritual space where Haydn and Kakuzu were linked together, the two looked at each other. This spiritual space was similar to the sealed space of the 9 tails in Naruto's body. The difference was that there was no cage here. There was only Kakuzu with tentacles like a monster, and Haydn with strange runes all over his body. After a while, Haydn finally spoke. Okay. Then it's a deal. Haydn's serious look was replaced by a playful smile after he answered. Alas. If I make a move, that little mouse will only have a dead end. It's a pity, I still prefer that little mouse, and I even thought of developing it into a follower of the evil god. While talking, Kakuzu's tentacles suddenly rushed to the distance, holding the death scythe inserted in the ground and not yet repaired. Haydn took the scythe with his right hand and put it on his shoulder. At the same time, the black tentacles that Kakuzu used to cover his body suddenly burst out, and all the self-exploding spiders that flew over were cut in half. Haydn weighed the scythe on his shoulder and shouted, Hey, little mouse, I may not be able to do what I promised you, but don't worry, after killing you, I will say a few good words to the evil god. Or, you can choose to admit defeat. Chapter 451. Haydn's participation in the battle made the outcome of the game once again confusing. However, Haydn's declaration before joining the battle was considered extremely benevolent to a certain extent. After all, Haydn's ability to curse by obtaining the enemy's blood is very easy to fall prey to if one is unguarded. Can you tell me what kind of deal you made? Naruto replied after hearing Haydn's declaration. Haydn didn't hide it and directly replied, Kakuzu said that if he wins, he will be willing to change his name to Xiao Zhua and become my left hand. Woo! Before Haydn finished speaking, Kakuzu's tentacle gave Haydn a big mouth. Then the two fought. Everyone watching the match was dumbfounded by this scene. However, Naruto didn't care about that and urged Deidara, hurry up. Take advantage of this time and give it a few big pineapples. Under Deidara's control, C2 Mega Dragon fell from the sky and rushed over. Kakuzu's tentacle reacted quickly and hit C2 Mega Dragon. It seemed that he wanted to directly cut it in half like the self-exploding spider. However, the composition of C2 Mega Dragon was obviously much more stable than the self-exploding spider, so it only entangled the dragon. Naruto commanded, crash down. Deidara originally intended to let the dragon fly up and pull Haydn's body into the sky and make it explode in the sky, but after listening to Naruto's words, he didn't hesitate. He controlled the dragon to crash into the ground. Naruto's mouse paw pressed on the ground and launched Earth Release Ninjutsu. In an instant, the ground under Haydn's feet began to collapse, and the waves of earth rolled up and swallowed Haydn like a dumpling. To be precise, it swallowed Mega Dragon. Mega Dragon was like a plug in a needle, pushing all the way. Naruto controlled the ground to fill and form rocks. Give him the last blow. Naruto was very straightforward. Deidara didn't hesitate either. Since it was a life and death battle, there was no reason to go easy. One hand seal. Huh. The explosion erupted from the ground, and for a time, the ground shook. However, the surrounding buildings were not affected. Obviously, other members of the Akatsuki took action to control the explosion within a certain range. But in this way, the power of the explosion will also increase sharply. Boom! It was as if the earth had farted. Naruto's rock escape caused the ground to rise high. The little flying squirrel Naruto and Dead Ale stood where they were, keeping an eye on their surroundings. Are you dead? Naruto asked. I don't think so. Both of them are monsters, and together, they are monsters among monsters. Dedale's hand reached into the clay package, and the sound of "Gudgy Gudgy" came from his hand like a wolf swallowing a tiger. Soon after, a second colossal dragon appeared. "I'll take you up there. We'll throw a big guy down from the sky." Naruto wore the Filyu and the two boarded the C2 Mega Dragon. Deidara then grabbed a handful of clay and stuffed it into his mouth. Soon, the clay stuffed into Dedale's mouth was spat out again. It was a clay doll in the shape of a water droplet. It opened its hands like wings. "Waha! This is my proudest work. C3-17. Bloom," Dedale said and threw the doll down. The Akatsuki members were calm, but a few of them looked at Yahiko. Seeing that Yahiko stayed in place, they also didn't run away. Dedale made a seal with one hand. Ha! The humanoid water droplet C3-17 with wings fell to the ground and exploded. However, the explosion didn't spread, and it directly rushed into the sky. Someone limited the range of the explosion. What kind of ninjutsu is this? Who did it? Naruto looked at the people below. Yahiko raised his hand. Nothing else could be seen. When the explosion stopped, Dedale said, "Do you want to throw a few more?" At this time, Pain finally said, "The game is over." Then he looked at the little flying squirrel for a long time and asked, "Name?" Naruto subconsciously replied, "Rat Grandpa." For a moment, the scene was very quiet. The other members of the Akatsuki looked up at the silver-gray big-eared flying squirrel in the sky with admiration. There really wasn't a fierce person who claimed to be a master to Pain. So, this guy should die, right? Will the boss roast him? Or stew him? Yahiko's expression was stiff. Originally, he wanted to ask for the name and then announce the winner. But now, he changed his words. Kakuzu lost. After that, he walked away without looking back. Kisame grinned and gave Naruto a thumbs up from afar. Dedale couldn't help but praise, "You're great." Naruto shamelessly replied, "I think I'm great too." Dedale's heart was complicated. Compared to Pain calling him grandpa, calling him brother was simply too weak. The game was over, and the C2 dragon hovered down from the sky. At this time, most of the Akatsuki members dispersed, but Kisame didn't leave. He praised again, "Very good, you are the most unique ninja beast I have ever seen." Naruto replied, "If you can talk to me as an equal, I won't call you Stinky Shark." Kisame was stunned for a moment, then he laughed heartily. He didn't know if the shark muscle behind him also felt funny, but it twisted its body and shook behind him. It looked very interesting. Clatter. The sound of stones turning was heard. Naruto, Dedale, and Kisame were all stunned. Then they looked over. In the field that was blown into a huge pit, a black tentacle stretched out. Kakuzu. Then the second and third tentacles, the scorching ground bulged up, and then burst with a bang. A man wrapped in tentacles crawled out of the ground. Haiden. At this time, Haiden was dark, and his face was white. It looked terrible. That was Haiden's forbidden technique, death by blood. Did Fei Duan activate this forbidden immortality technique before the explosion? But if I remember correctly, this forbidden technique needs to draw a circle and a triangle with blood, right? Where is the drawing? On the rock. Won't the rock be blown away? While Naruto was puzzled, he saw Kakuzu's tentacles slowly retracting. Naruto saw traces of blood on the tentacles, and the sacrificial seal needed to be drawn by death by blood. It turned out to be drawn on a net made of Kakuzu's tentacles. Amazing. Dedale said in surprise. Huh? He didn't die. I told you this guy won't die easily. So, do you want to continue? As he said, he stuffed a handful of clay into his mouth. Is he trying to make a C3 bomb? Kisame was frightened. What are you doing? Pain isn't here. Your explosion will wipe out the Rain Country. Stop now. Dedale chewed in big mouthfuls, his eyes staring at Haiden. Haiden's expression froze. The seal on his body faded back, and he lay on the ground with smoke coming out of him. I can't fight anymore. I'm not fighting anymore. Only then did Dead Ale spit out the clay. Teske. I thought I could create number 18 today. Kisame curled his lips in pain. A bunch of lunatics. Let's go. After taking 2 steps, he stopped again. He looked back at Naruto. By the way, what's your name? Naruto answered succinctly, Master Rat. Kisame was stunned for a second, then he picked up the shark muscle and was about to stab over. The clay in Dedale's hand deformed into the shape of water droplets and stared at Kisame. C3-18? For a moment, Kisame's egg hurt. Chapter 452. After Naruto's battle ended, Pain and Uchiha Itachi left the Rain Country. Along with them was Zetsu. They acted quickly and had a clear purpose, and it could be seen that they had already grasped Tsunade's movements. In the sealed space of 9 Tails, Little Nine witnessed the scene that Naruto saw and asked, "Don't you want to catch up?" Naruto asked, "How do you want to catch up?" 1 Sharingan, 1 Rinnegan, 1 Mokuton. Are you kidding me? 9 Tails shrugged and yawned nonchalantly, as if it was none of her business whether she chased him or not. At the same time, he didn't forget to make sarcastic remarks. That Tsunade is your sensei, right? Are you just going to abandon her? Naruto rolled his eyes. Who said I don't care? When did you hear me say I don't care? 9 Tails also returned Naruto's eyes. How do you care if I don't catch up? Could it be that you've also left a locator mark on them? Then he emphasized, don't say that, the spiritual link hasn't been cut off in the last 48 hours, and I didn't see you do anything at all. Naruto didn't leave anything on the 3 of them. Because the 3 of them were too smart and powerful, the trick that he used to deal with Kakuzu could only hit his own foot. I didn't leave anything, but I don't need to leave anything, because they have ready-made ones on them. 9 Tails didn't understand this sentence and asked, what do you mean? Naruto smiled, the Akatsuki's ring. The Akatsuki's ring has a positioning function. As long as I can invade the Akatsuki's spiritual network, then, isn't it easy to grasp their movements? Little Nine suddenly wrinkled his nose. I seem to smell the smell of death. Naruto glanced at 9 Tails. I'm very confident, because the Akatsuki's spiritual network is quite simple, if you want to describe it. It's a local area network without security verification. What is a local area network? 9 Tails didn't understand and watched Naruto get busy. Naruto linked the ring with runes and left a series of 3-dimensional superimposed curses on the ring. Little Nine couldn't understand and could only ask, what are you doing? Naruto replied, it's just an information-gathering curse seal. This curse seal can copy all the information received by this ring and forward it to the spiritual network of the Great Snow Mountain. When I use the system's map function, I can see the location of all the members of the Akatsuki on the map. Little Nine had been influenced by the Great Snow Mountain for a few days and had a superficial understanding of curse seals. Are you not afraid that the other will enter the Great Snow Mountain's spiritual network? When the time comes, don't you? What's the name of that sentence you just said? Something about chicken and rice? Naruto added, you want to say that we went for wool and came home shorn, right? Don't worry, this message transmission is one way, and only sent from my client. Unless Pain is a true god and can change the rules, he can't even think about it. The curse seal to collect information was not complicated, and Naruto completed it in only 1 minute. Then Naruto logged into the system with his identity card and pulled up the map. After a few more operations, the collected information link was merged into it. Soon 9 red dots appeared on the map. Look, it's done, right? Naruto was very proud. Little Nine shrugged and didn't praise Naruto's technique, but said sarcastically, I didn't expect the Akatsuki's spiritual network to be so trashy. After that, the 2 of them stared at the map for quite a while. They watched as the 3 red dots left the rain country and headed straight in one direction. It was as if crossing a river or crossing a mountain when encountering a river, crossing a river when encountering a mountain. It seems that the location of Tsunade is on the extension of this straight line. Naruto concluded. Nine Tails wasn't stupid. He raised his eyebrows and asked, "You mean, find Tsunade along this straight line before these three people and then take Tsunade away?" Naruto praised, "Little Nine, you're so smart." Nine Tails was unnatural from the praise and shivered. "You're not asking me to go, are you?" Naruto pretended to be indifferent and said, "It's okay if you don't want to go, I'll go back, I'll control my body and find her myself." Then he changed the topic and said, "But, don't you want to go out and get some fresh air? The big snow mountain laboratory for you is a bit boring, right?" Then Nine Tails agreed. Naruto said, "Be careful. According to my speculation, the reason why Pain took Zetsu and Kendi was that Zetsu had information about Tsunade. It should be Zetsu's clone who is monitoring Tsunade. After you find Tsunade, you must always pay attention to the plants around you. Maybe one of them is hiding Zetsu." Nine Tails replied indifferently, "Oh, when I find her, I'll burn all the plants and wood around me." Naruto wanted to stop him, but after thinking about it, he seemed to be a Fahar as well. Naruto contacted She-Wolf, who was looking for the Greya mine at the border of the Land of Fire and the Land of Wind. "Summon my body." She-Wolf was taking a nap in a hotel at this time. She was shocked when she heard Naruto's words. Did the boss know that she was slacking off? She-Wolf's brain was a little stuck, and she couldn't help but think of the tragic death of her previous boss. Would he be taken care of? She-Wolf was frightened by her own imagination. "Is it inconvenient over there? Why aren't you replying?" Naruto asked when she didn't reply for a long time. She-Wolf finally woke up from her imagination. I'm taking a shower. Wait a minute, I'll get dressed." With that, the wolf girl jumped out of the inn's window without even leaving. Then, she ran all the way into the forest. Naruto blinked, and the map was still in front of him. In addition to the 9 red dots representing the Akatsuki, there was also the location information of people with identity cards. Naruto looked at the coordinates representing She-Wolf and slipped out of a small town. What's going on? Thinking back to Gurney's daily lies about taking a shower. Well, the truth wasn't hard to guess at all. This stupid wolf. Naruto rolled his eyes and stared at the map. He wanted to see how far She-Wolf could run. Then, he saw She-Wolf plunge into a mountain, go over a second mountain, and continue to rush to the third mountain without stopping. Was she possessed by a husky? In the end, She-Wolf finally made it to the fourth mountain. The summoning ritual was activated, and Nine Tails, who saw this scene, was already laughing in the circle of light. When Nine Tails appeared again, he was already beside She-Wolf. The surroundings were full of white snow and the footprints of She-Wolf as she ran. Looking at the panting She-Wolf, Nine Tails couldn't help but laugh again. He asked, "Are you tired after running for so long?" She-Wolf was frightened, and her pupils rapidly dilated in fear. She stuttered, "That, boss, not, master." "I'm not." Nine Tails smiled and waved his hand. "I'm not Naruto. How about we have a competition? Let's see who can run back to your hotel first. If you win, I won't punish you." She-Wolf was stunned for a moment. Nine Tails had already shouted the slogan, 3, 2, 1, run. Wolf Girl reacted, and the two of them rushed out one after the other. Rain Country, Dedale's room. Naruto looked at the map projection in front of him that only he could see. Looking at the two coordinates, one after the other, they ran back along the previous straight line. What's going on? Are husky attributes contagious? Chapter 453. The current snow country was no longer the backward country of the past that was covered in ice and snow. At a glance, the surroundings of the snow country's capital were filled with greenery. According to Chunhua Xiao Shui's plan, after the snow country's economy developed, they wanted to melt all the ice and snow within the snow country and bring spring to the snow country. However, this proposal was directly rejected by Naruto. Naruto's proposal was that the key towns and farms could use Chakra's geothermal device to melt the ice and snow, but the snow country's overall landscape should remain the same as before. Then, they would vigorously develop unique ice and snow entertainment activities, such as ice lanterns, ice sculptures, skiing, natural polar zoos, etc. They would use virtual reality movies as a stepping stone to promote the development of the tourism industry. At the same time, Naruto emphasized that ice and snow wasn't the snow country's enemy. Under the influence of virtual reality movies, not only could it become a source of wealth, it could also become a natural barrier to protect the snow country. Because of this, the current snow country was like an oasis in the desert. A city of miracles that bloomed in the vast land of ice and snow. The Clown Emperor's 4 girls were walking on the main street of the snow country. Next to the street was a very long lake. The lake originated from melted ice and snow, so the snow country built a river to store the water. This way, it could be used for irrigation, fish farming, or even to decorate the city. The curved pod-like boats swung back and forth on the water, looking just like the Venice of another world. "President, you don't look happy?" The president was still wearing her fiery red windbreaker. Her expression wasn't just unhappy, it was gloomy to the extreme. "Don't worry about me, I'm fine." 05 fearfully covered her mouth with her hand. 04 also had a sour expression on her face. 05 rolled her eyes and looked at 01. 01 chuckled and whispered, "The president is ashamed." 05 whispered, "Ashamed of what?" 01 pulled 05 a few steps forward and explained, "Think about it, you originally went to save 07, but 07 saved you instead. How could the president not feel ashamed? Also, the president has always been protecting 07 with the attitude of an adult, but now that the roles of protecting and being protected have been reversed, her heart is a bit stifled." 005 nodded in realization. "Oh, so that's how it is. Then why is Big Sister 04 so unhappy? Is it also because of this?" 01 kept him in suspense. "As for 04, she's not. She's just looking at the adults." Saying this, 01 winked and smiled strangely. The veins on the foreheads of the 2 people walking in front of him twitched. The president took out a cigarette and lit it for himself. He took a deep puff and resisted the urge. 04 couldn't help but reply impatiently, "You 2 are whispering behind me. Do you really think I can't hear you?" 0 and 0 both shrunk their necks. 0 changed the topic. "Sister 0 has been much happier recently." 0 smiled and said, "That's right. I heard that my arm is growing pretty well. After a while, I'll be able to undergo surgery to replace it with a real arm. Then, I'll be able to work with you guys. Do you think this is worth being happy about?" 05 nodded repeatedly. "Happy." The president took a deep puff of his cigarette, and the red flame was drawn to the end of the cigarette at a speed visible to the naked eye. Then, it exhaled deeply, turning into a large smoke ring. "I say." The moment the president spoke, everyone looked over. "After 01's arm is healed, let's leave this place." For a moment, the joy on 0 and 1's faces froze. 05 said uncertainly, "It's just the 4 of us?" The president nodded. "Yes, it's just the 4 of us." 05 whispered guiltily, then 0607, The president's expression was calm. "They have their own lives. We're different from them." 05 pouted. "What?" Back then, the president said that as long as we joined the Clown Emperor, we'd always be his people. Even if we were wood leaf ninjas, we'd still take them back. Why did he change his mind now? The president remained silent and didn't answer. "I've already decided. If you don't want to leave, then just stay here. I won't force you." The conversation instantly reached a freezing point. 04, who was angry, didn't dare to continue being angry. She persuaded, "Weren't you fine just now? Why did you suddenly get angry?" The president didn't answer. With a bang, the president turned into a puff of smoke and disappeared. The girls exchanged glances with each other. They recalled the puff of smoke that the president had just exhaled. That meant that the president had already left. The one in front of them was only a clone. 05 said timidly, "The president lost her temper." "When was the last time she lost her temper?" 0 said helplessly, "When 02 and 03 died." 05 nodded. "Then, will Boss also disappear for a month this time?" The girls recalled that the last time Boss disappeared, it was because she was drunk that she was discovered. Otherwise, it would have been really difficult to find her. 0 sighed. "It seems that I underestimated the impact of this on the president." 05 asked dumbly, "But why?" 0 rubbed her head. "Because she feels that she's too weak and can't protect us well." 04 said uncertainly, "Then let's go find her. Even if she's the president, she doesn't have the obligation to shoulder everything on her own, right?" 0 shook her head. "Let her have some time alone. If she doesn't want us to find her, no one will be able to find her." At the corner of the street behind the girls, the president in red looked back at the backs of the girls before disappearing into the sea of people with a dejected expression. At the same time, Nine Tails finally arrived at the straight line that Naruto had mentioned. "Say, how do we find her?" Nine Tails yelled at Naruto through the spiritual network. Naruto said, "Use the perception barrier." Nine Tails activated the perception barrier and replied, "I don't have it." Naruto rolled his eyes. "Make the perception barrier bigger. Don't be so stingy." After returning to this world, Nine Tails' chakra had been recovering every day. Her body had already grown twice its original size. As such, chakra was still quite full. And this was under the condition that Naruto used it frequently. Otherwise, Nine Tails would have recovered even more by now. Nine Tails had no choice but to inject chakra into her identity card. The perception barrier expanded again and again until it finally enveloped the entire town. "I don't have it." Naruto replied, "We didn't go in a straight line. Let's go to the next city." Nine Tails sniffed and mumbled, "I'm not going. I'm hungry. I want to eat." Then he waved at Little Tail beside him. "Are you hungry? Let's go. I'll take you to eat." Chapter 454. Naruto, do I still have descendants in this world? In the Great Snow Mountain Laboratory, Naruto was using Fugu's body to conduct an experiment on living steel. At the same time, Uzumaki Mito was also present. Uzumaki Mito looked at the metal flowing in Little Gunny's hand and suddenly thought of this question. Naruto replied, "Yes, my Shifu, Tsunade, is your granddaughter." Uzumaki Mito blinked her big eyes and pointed at herself in disbelief. "Granddaughter? Tsunade? She's the one you're looking for? Then, why did you bring her back?" Naruto nodded. "If there's no accident, I will bring her back." Uzumaki Mito frowned, her expression was tense, and no one knew what she was thinking. Little Gunny controlled the living steel to imprint a perception barrier on a card. "It's done, but I feel like the effect is similar to using ink lines." Naruto took the card, tried it, and found that it was true. Let's do some more research. Maybe it has other properties." Then he sent a private message to Little Gunny. "When my main body comes back, I want to see if I can fuse with your steel release." Not many people knew that Naruto could fuse with Chakra's property by devouring soul points. Little Gunny was one of them. Little Gunny happily replied, "No problem. What about Gunny's boiling release? Want to try it together?" Naruto replied, "No rush, one by one. That, fusing with Chakra's property will require me to devour part of your soul points. You might be weakened for a while." Little Gunny didn't care. "It's fine, there's no battle here. Even if there is, let Gunny and Big Gunny go first." Naruto rubbed Little Gunny's head. "If there's a battle, I'll go first." Little Gunny happily replied, "Okay. Naruto, Anai-san will protect me." Naruto handed the card to Uzumaki Mito. "Do you want to try it?" Uzumaki Mito lay on the table. What's there to try? The earliest medium for the sealing technique was human blood, then animal blood. Later, because the smell of blood was too strong and attracted mosquitoes, they added something to the blood to drive them away. Gradually, it developed into today's ink. Little Guni did not understand and asked curiously, "Brother Naruto, what is Mitone-san talking about?" Naruto replied, "What Mito meant was that there are many things that can be used as a sealing medium, and there's no need to make a fuss about finding one." Little Gini nodded. "Oh, I see." However, Uzumaki Mito directly slapped him in the face. "No, what I mean is that blood is much cheaper and more convenient than your metal. Your metal has no practical value at all, and it also needs steel-release Kekkei Genkai. It can't be popularized at all." "Alright." Naruto shrugged awkwardly. Little Guni shrugged cutely as well. The two looked at each other and smiled. Uzumaki Mito changed the topic. If I meet my granddaughter, how should I introduce myself?" "Tell her that I'm your grandmother." Naruto nodded and asked, "Otherwise?" Uzumaki Mito pouted. "But I feel like I'm still a child." Then she leaned closer to Little Guni. "Little Guni and I are good sisters." Naruto didn't mind when it came to seniority. He and Naidame Hokage also seemed to be brothers. He was not qualified to advise others on this. Little Guni, on the other hand, had a lot of ideas and suggested, "Why don't you change your name? Just don't let your granddaughter know that you're Uzumaki Mito." Uzumaki Mito looked at Little Guni in surprise and gave her a big hug. Speaking of which, when did Uzumaki Mito and Little Guni play together? It seems that the two girls' relationship was very good the day after Uzumaki Mito came. At the same time, a fire suddenly burned in a remote town in the Land of Fire. Did Nine Tails find Tsunade? No, it's Orochimaru. You did it. Why? The fire was burning, and Tsunade wanted to put it out, but a person appeared in the shadow of the corner. It was an old acquaintance, Orochimaru. Orochimaru replied, "Didn't you notice? You've been followed by the Akatsuki." Tsunade frowned. "What does this have to do with you setting the fire?" Orochimaru stuck out his long tongue and licked his lower lip habitually. "Because it's difficult to find that person hiding in the house. The house is burning, and he has no place to hide. It's convenient for you and me to talk." The fire was burning, and all the villagers moved and began to put out the fire. This made the two standing motionless on the side particularly eye-catching. Tsunade said, "Then that person must have found you by now. What's the point of doing this?" Orochimaru said confidently, "I'm not afraid of being discovered by him. I'm afraid that I don't know his movements and let him hear something he shouldn't hear." Tsunade's eyes fell on the fire. The fire was burning fiercely, and the rising smoke was very dark. But she didn't find the person who was following her, as Orochimaru said. "Tell me, why are you looking for me?" Orochimaru smiled. "First of all, I'll tell you the unfortunate news. The two Akatsuki members you killed a few days ago are not dead." Tsunade was shocked and subconsciously replied, "Impossible. The person with 5 hearts were destroyed by me. The other body that can be repaired was buried in different places by me," Orochimaru said with a smile. "But you seem to have forgotten to destroy the 6th heart, and when you buried it, you mixed something else." Tsunade frowned and thought about the 6th heart. Could it be? Orochimaru looked at Tsunade with a smile on his face. "Well, you seem to have understood. Then I'll tell you the second news. Naruto betrayed the village, and now he seems to be lurking in the Akatsuki. You were going to go back to Woodleaf to take a look, right? You don't have to go back. Naruto is no longer in the village. I can guarantee that." Tsunade stared at Orochimaru's eyes. "These eyes have become strange. Can I trust them?" Orochimaru looked at her calmly. After a long time, Tsunade asked, Why are you telling me this news? Orochimaru smiled. Naruto is in danger. If you go, maybe you can save his life. Tsunade didn't believe it. You're worried about other people's lives? Orochimaru replied without changing his expression. No matter what. Naruto is also my half-apprentice. Although it's only part of the deal, I taught him. In addition, I really appreciate him. He's the only person I've seen in the world who is not pedantic and hypocritical, so I don't want to see him die so easily. Orochimaru threw a ring to Tsunade. This is the Akatsuki's ring. Join them and rescue Naruto shouldn't be difficult for you. Well, my business is done. I'm looking forward to the next time we meet. Orochimaru's body suddenly softened, then turned into a snake and slithered away. Chapter 455. In the burning town, Tsunade held a ring with the word "void" written on it and fell into deep thought. Can Orochimaru's words be trusted? What's the point of looking at it from an untrustworthy point of view? From another point of view, what's the benefit of her joining the Akatsuki for Orochimaru? She couldn't figure it out. Tsunade's 2 fingers holding the ring kept increasing their strength. However, the ring didn't move, and it was strong. Tsunade continued to stare at the ring in her hand. Could it be? Orochimaru really just wanted to save Naruto? This joke is really not funny at all. Then, why did Naruto betray the village, and why did he lurk in the Akatsuki after betraying the village? Was he an undercover wood leaf? Outside the town, White Zetsu emerged from the branch of a tree, and at the same time, a bell rang. This is touching the enchantment. I've been discovered. White Zetsu was about to escape into the tree, but a sword swept through, and the trunk was directly cut in half. Orochimaru stood not far away, holding the Kusanagi sword in his hand, and looked at White Zetsu with a smile. Tell your body, I returned the Akatsuki's ring to you, and helped the organization recruit a person. After saying that, Orochimaru turned around and left calmly. Where is the ring? Recruit. Who recruited? White Zetsu returned to the town with a confused look, and the fire in the town was under control. Only the smoke was rolling, and the fire was getting smaller and smaller. White Zetsu emerged from the ground, glanced around, and saw Tsunade still standing in place. And the ring in Tsunade's hand. Ring. Tsunade. Is the person Orochimaru was talking about? Tsunade. White Zetsu has a mind, but it's still a little worse than ordinary people. Therefore, its brain crashed. He quietly approached Tsunade and asked politely, Are you going to join us? Tsunade raised her eyebrows. Ah? Who are you? White Zetsu came out of the ground and politely saluted, Hello Tsunade-sama, I'm the most ordinary member of the Akatsuki, and my name is White Zetsu. Tsunade blinked a little dumbfounded. She asked, You've been following me? White Zetsu nodded obediently. Yes. Tsunade took a deep breath. Since he was a member of Akatsuki, she wanted to kick the person in front of her. But looking at that naive and adorable look, it seemed that he could not bring himself to do it. How could there be such a stupid guy in Akatsuki? According to Jiraiya's introduction, it seems to be the place where the top ninjas of various countries gather. Hey, what's the purpose of your organization? White Zetsu replied respectfully, Let there be no more war in the world. Huh? Tsunade was dumbfounded again. To rid the world of war? This ideal was much higher than Naruto's desire to protect a village. Are you kidding me? Tsunade stared at White Zetsu's eyes. White Zetsu looked sincere. I won't lie to the powerful Tsunade-sama. His eyes were sincere, hundreds of times more sincere than Orochimaru's. Tsunade asked again, Then your members, who are they? White Zetsu looked at the ring in Tsunade's hand and replied sincerely, Tsunade-sama, you will know when you put on the ring. Tsunade picked up the ring. This thing? White Zetsu nodded, yes. Tsunade was not sure, can this thing be taken off after putting it on? White Zetsu nodded again. Yes. Tsunade put the ring on White Zetsu's finger, then pulled it out. It seemed to be fine. But Tsunade noticed one thing. White Zetsu didn't seem to have such a ring on his finger. Where's your ring? White Zetsu replied honestly, I'm not worthy of such a noble ring. Tsunade looked at the ring again. While hesitating, she put it on her little finger according to the size of the ring. The moment Tsunade put on the ring, Nagato sensed it. In the rain country, Nagato's breathing paused slightly, and his face changed. Conan on the side noticed Nagato's strangeness and asked, What's wrong? What happened? Nagato opened his mouth. Interesting, the lost void ring has appeared, and the person holding it is not Orochimaru. Conan thought and sighed. This is indeed interesting. Who is the person holding the ring? How strong is he? Is he a new member who wants to join us? Nagato replied, His strength is not bad. As for whether he wants to join us, I don't know. Well, I'll ask. Pain Tendo Yahiko made hand seals under Nagato's control, and the next moment, Tsunade received the invitation. Tsunade hesitated a little, then followed the instructions and accepted the link. Then part of Tsunade's consciousness appeared on the left little finger of the Gedo Mazo. Opposite him was the Tendo Pain Yahiko on his right thumb. Tsunade, one of the Woodleaf Sannin, it's an honor to meet you here. Tsunade glanced around. What's the scenery here? What's the meaning? 10 fingers, 2 people. Tsunade's eyes fell on Pain's hand, and she saw the ring on his hand. 2 rings. Does that mean there are only 10 core members of the Akatsuki? Who are you? Are you a messenger? Or the leader? Pain Tendo Yahiko replied with a blank expression. Before I ask, I want to know. Where did you get the ring? Does wearing it mean that you want to join us? Tsunade stared at Pain. She noticed the black cylinder on Pain's face. Is that a real face? Or a fake one? If it's a real face, are those things on his body for personal interest? Or is it related to ninjutsu? Tsunade observed and replied, this ring was obtained from Orochimaru. As for me, you have to answer a few questions before I can answer whether you want to join us or not. Pain Tendo Yahiko was silent for a moment. Ask, but you can only ask one question at most, and I guarantee the authenticity of the answer. Only one question. You have to think about it before you ask. What question? Ask if Naruto is in the Akatsuki? She couldn't ask that. It would be too obvious, and it would be troublesome to take action in the future. Then what should she ask? The Akatsuki's stronghold? She didn't know if his promise was true or not. Tsunade was a little tempted, but she still rejected the idea. I want to ask, what is the meaning of the Akatsuki's existence? Tsunade stared at Pain. This time, Tsunade noticed the word 0 on the ring on Pain's hand. At the same time, the fingertip of the finger under his feet also lit up with the word 0. And her finger pointed to the word void, and the fingertip of the finger under her body also lit up with the word void. In addition, each of the other 8 fingers had a word on it. If that's the case, the Akatsuki's core members are likely to be only 10 people. While Tsunade was collecting information, Pain replied, in order to make this world have no more wars. I'm done, now it's your turn to answer me. Tsunade looked at Pain and noticed Pain's eyes at this time. Those circles of eyes. Could it be? Impossible, right? Those eyes. Chapter 456. In the Great Snow Mountain Laboratory, a red suddenly appeared on the map in front of Naruto. The red was one of the Akatsuki's rings, and the extra one was the 10th ring, Void. Orochimaru? Looking at the location of the red, it was on the straight line that the Akatsuki was tracking down Tsunade. Was it a coincidence? Naruto didn't believe in such a coincidence. Naruto felt uneasy. System notification. The Akatsuki is holding a meeting. Please return if you need to attend. This notification was sent by the flying squirrel's identity card. A meeting at this time? Naruto glanced at the extra red on the map, and his spiritual body returned to the flying squirrel's body. He raised his hand and made a hand seal to gather chakra. The next moment, an image of the flying squirrel rolling appeared on the Gedo Mazo's left middle finger. Then, Naruto saw that there was another person on the fingertip that lit up with the word, Void. The colorful image made it impossible to see the person's appearance, but the outline of the image was all too familiar to Naruto. Impossible. How could Tsunade be here? Could it be Orochimaru disguised as Tsunade? That's possible. Naruto remembered that before Chunin's exam, Jiraiya disguised as Tsunade and went to the women's room. So, it's reasonable for Orochimaru to disguise himself, right? After Naruto forced himself to explain, he pretended to be surprised and asked, "Huh? There's another person today? Could this person be the legendary Orochimaru who ran away with the word void?" Fei Duan stared closely at the image and asked suspiciously, "Tsunade?" Fei Duan felt that he couldn't be mistaken about the woman who tore him into pieces and buried him. The others also looked over. At this time, Nagato finally spoke. "Let me introduce everyone. This is our new member, Tsunade." Boom. Naruto felt like he was struck by lightning. What did Nagato just say? Tsunade? Is he serious? He's not joking, right? How could Tsunade join the Akatsuki? Naruto comforted himself, and then Tsunade finally spoke. She introduced herself. I'm Tsunade. Explain. After hearing Tsunade's voice, Naruto finally gave up. But why? Why did Tsunade join the Akatsuki? Naruto recalled the map in front of him. The coordinates of Pain, Yahiko, Uchihara Itachi, and Zetsu's rings were far from the coordinates of the 10th ring that suddenly appeared. They hadn't met yet. Naruto calmed down as fast as he could, and then began to think about why Tsunade joined the Akatsuki. Also, why did the ring that was supposed to be with Orochimaru appear on Tsunade's body? Of Orochimaru. Tsunade. What exactly happened between the two of them? Tsunade had no reasons Akatsuki's s. Because if she wanted to join, she wouldn't have been so heavy-handed to those two people. It of course. Yuto join Ked of. I haven't gotten my revenge on you yet. Fei Duan let out a strange cry, then shouted a few times in exasperation. Tsunade's eyes turned to Haiden. You're not dead. What kind of monster are you? Haiden's left arm twisted and turned into Kakuzu. I don't agree with her joining. She's very suspicious. Tsunade waved her hand. You're a strange monster, but what gives a loser the right to speak? Kakuzu gritted his teeth and turned to look at Yahiko. Then Haiden also looked at Yahiko. Yahiko said expressionlessly, the meeting is to let everyone get to know each other, and to emphasize one thing, private fighting is prohibited. As for the hatred between you, if you can't let it go, then I can hold another fight for you. In this fight, you can kill each other, but this is your only chance. Yahiko looked at Haiden. What's your choice? Do you want to fight? Without waiting for Haiden to answer, Kakuzu said, yes. It must be done. And I'll kill her. Naruto, who was thinking, couldn't help but complain. Save it, you can't even kill me. This one seems to be much stronger than me. Kakuzu turned his head to Naruto. Little rat, you're very proud, but when I fought you, I didn't even have 1% of my strength. Bickering with Naruto? Kakuzu really chose the wrong opponent. Naruto continued to mock. But when you were at 100% strength, you were still torn apart. In a 2v1 situation. This was the truth, and because it was the truth, it was particularly painful. Kakuzu was trembling with anger. Pain Yahiko stared at Haiden. What do you think? Haiden replied, well, I also think it's necessary to fight, but not now. Yahiko retracted his gaze and looked at Tsunade again. Well, then it's settled. The time will be when winter is over and the flowers are blooming. Today's meeting ends here. As for who Tsunade will team up with, we'll talk about it after this battle. After saying that, Pain Yahiko lifted the jutsu, and everyone's consciousness returned to their bodies. In the rain country, the flying squirrel went straight to sleep after lifting the jutsu. Naruto's spiritual body returned to Fugu's body. At this time, in the Great Snow Mountain Laboratory, Little Guni and Uzumaki Mito were carrying him into the corpse coffin. Seeing Naruto wake up, Little Guni was surprised. Huh? Naruto, Aizen, how come you're back so soon? I was planning to put this body away. Naruto took a deep breath. Helplessly, he said, something happened, and I wanted to come back and think about it. Guni took Uzumaki Mito's hand and was about to leave. Then let's go play somewhere else. We won't disturb Naruto, Aizen. Naruto stopped Uzumaki Mito. By the way, your granddaughter might not be able to come for a while. Uzumaki Mito's eyes widened, and carefully asked, really? Naruto nodded. Sorry, something happened. Before Naruto could finish his words, Uzumaki Mito suddenly hugged Naruto like an octopus and said happily, wow. This is really great news. I just couldn't think of a suitable name. It's really great. Naruto. What did he want to say before? Well, it doesn't seem to matter now. Then you guys go play, I have to think about something. Uzumaki Mito and Little Guni ran 2 steps, then jumped back and asked, by the way, is she okay? Seeing Naruto nodded, the 2 little girls finally ran away. Naruto sighed again, feeling tired. She's the only grandmother in the world who dislikes her granddaughter so much. Throwing the messy thoughts out of his mind, Naruto began to think seriously again. About what happened between Tsunade and Orochimaru. Why did Orochimaru's ring appear in Tsunade's hand? Why did Tsunade's attitude suddenly change and want to join the Akatsuki? Naruto's super brain started to work. Combining all the information obtained, he listed the reasoning hypotheses. Then he overthrew the hypotheses that didn't hold. A sentence flashed in Naruto's mind. That was what Tsunade said to Hayden during the meeting just now. You really didn't die. What kind of monster are you? Does this mean that Tsunade heard in advance that Hayden didn't die? Where did she hear that? Tsunade didn't move in that straight line. Does Tsunade have an informant in the Akatsuki? If so, then there's no need for me to join. So, it's someone else. Who is it? Orochimaru's ring. Is it Orochimaru? Then, Orochimaru suddenly came to Tsunade? And then Orochimaru told Tsunade that Hayden didn't die? Then how did Orochimaru know? Does Orochimaru have an informant in the Akatsuki? If these 2 hypotheses are true, then why did Orochimaru do this? Chapter 457. Excluding the possibility of Tsunade having an informant in the Akatsuki. Then it makes sense that Tsunade met Orochimaru and learned from him that Hayden was not dead. And Orochimaru used to be a member of the Akatsuki, so it makes sense to have an informant in the Akatsuki. So, why did Orochimaru do this? Why did Tsunade agree? Or is the Tsunade in front of him actually a fake Tsunade? But she appeared in that straight line, so theoretically, she was Tsunade. Unless Orochimaru can grasp the Akatsuki's movements like him. Did Orochimaru also crack the Akatsuki's spiritual network? This doesn't seem difficult. After all, Orochimaru can block the connection between the rings and seal the rings. Orochimaru should have used this method to block the spiritual network. So, this Tsunade is actually Orochimaru in disguise? If so, is it possible that the Tsunade found by the undead duo was Orochimaru? If so, the logic seems more reasonable. Because Orochimaru understood the characteristics of the undead duo, and deliberately buried part of Kakuzu's body with Hayden's heart? Then, how do you explain the Een seal? Is it also a disguise? How difficult is it to disguise a strange power that can defeat the undead duo? What are the possibilities? Or, did Orochimaru add a curse to himself? This should be impossible. Yakushi said that the reason why Orochimaru didn't learn the Ryuchi Cave Senjutsu was because he was afraid of death. Although that was also a guess, Naruto felt that there was some truth to it. Or, Haiden and Kakuzu were under Orochimaru's genjutsu? The more he thought about it, the more questions he had. The question was whether Tsunade was real or not. If it was real, he could go and contact her. But if it was fake, he would die if he contacted her like this. Therefore, the first task was to determine the authenticity first. Rain Country, Deidara's bedroom. Naruto stretched and yawned. It's so boring. Naruto looked at Deidara, who was making a clay bar. Hey, is that Tsunade here? Let's go visit her? Deidara snapped his fingers, and the clay man moved. This scene made Naruto think of Nuwa making a human. What the F*CK was Nuwa creating humans? Naruto was greatly shocked by the image of Dead Ale transforming into a woman with 2 holy mountains on his chest. Dead Ale replied, he came yesterday, If I remember correctly, he's in room 309. Naruto took 2 steps, turned around and asked, you're not going? If you keep cooped up in the house, you're going to go moldy. Dead Ale shifted his gaze from the white clay figurine to 2 Dumb. Could it be that his 2 Dumb didn't dare to go by herself? Deidara thought of himself who didn't dare to go to the bathroom at night when he was a child and didn't dare to say anything. Those were the memories of her youth. Alright, let's go. Room 309. Tsunade was looking out of the window thoughtfully. She had already joined Akatsuki, but she didn't see Naruto. Could it be that Orochimaru lied to him? Dang dang dang. Someone knocked on the door. Tsunade frowned and turned around. Who is it? Dead Ale looked at 2 Dumb, and 2 Dumb was also looking at him. Dead Ale gestured with his eyes, meaning nothing more than, don't you want to visit? Answer me. Naruto blinked and said nothing. Dead Ale could only helplessly reply, Dead Ale. Soon Tsunade opened the door. At home, Tsunade was dressed in simple plain clothes. Her breasts were bulging, revealing a deep cleavage that was deeper than the Mariana Trench. But it's not a big deal. After all, Tsunade also wore this outside in summer. Naruto was very calm. Dead Ale's face suddenly turned red, and his eyes glanced up to avoid the abyss of sin. What's the matter? Tsunade asked, and Dead Ale suddenly felt awkward and didn't know how to answer. Naruto had already gotten into the house. Habit of observation. Naruto's eyes were like radar, and his eyes swept through all the furnishings in the room. The furnishings in the room were almost standard. However, he could see something from the arrangement of the clothes after taking off. One word was, messy. Naruto also went to Tsunade's bedroom, and it was also messy. So, it was a bit similar. Wow. I was wondering why it smelled so good. It turned out to be my favorite canned food. Naruto stepped on the lid of the can and jumped around cutely. Tsunade turned and looked at the silver-gray cute little flying squirrel and said, You little guy are quite lively today. When I visited the house yesterday, you seemed to be sleeping. Naruto replied, Did you visit our house yesterday? Then I really missed a very important moment. Then he said to Dead Ale fiercely, Why didn't you wake me up? Tsunade walked over, Do you like canned hawthorn? Naruto grinned and showed his shining front teeth. It's sour and sweet, very appetizing, super delicious. Oh, by the way, I wasn't invited. Is it a bit impolite to suddenly enter the house? Why don't I go out and walk again? Tsunade rolled her eyes and was about to say something, but suddenly she was stunned. The 2 sentences that the little rat just said brushed through her heart. Sour and sweet, appetizing, super delicious? This sentence. Naruto said it when he tricked Dolphin to eat canned hawthorn. There was also that sentence. Was it a bit impolite to suddenly enter the house without being invited? Should I go out again? That sentence was deliberately muted by Naruto. Was it a coincidence? She looked at the little rat in front of her again. Maybe she was thinking too much? How could Naruto become a rat? Tsunade saw that the rat in front of her was not a transformation technique. It was a real rat. No, Dead Ale, you come in too. The room will be a bit messy later. I will simply clean it up. Naruto continued to observe Tsunade. Tsunade's movement of collecting clothes was very Tsunade. No matter what clothes she took, she would roll them into a ball and throw them into the closet. Dead Ale walked into the house. Naruto thought of a way to confirm Tsunade's identity. I heard that you also have a summoning beast. Can you show it to me? Maybe you can play with me. Tsunade didn't refuse. Okay. As she said that, she made a hand seal and pressed her palm on the ground. The curse spread like a spider web. Summoning technique. Boom. A little slug appeared in front of him. It was the real Tsunade. Then the hypothesis that Orochimaru found Tsunade was true. But, why did Orochimaru do this? What was the reason for Tsunade to agree? Should he talk to Tsunade through spiritual link? Wait, if Orochimaru has an informant in the Akatsuki, then, could it be that he was watching this scene from a certain position? It seems that Orochimaru used Tsunade to lure him? That was close. He almost used Naruto's identity to contact Tsunade. As for him coming to find Tsunade, this should not be enough to convince Orochimaru that he was Naruto. Tsunade-sama, what's the matter? The little slug looked at Tsunade respectfully. Tsunade smiled and said, Well, I want to introduce you to a new friend. Chapter 458. In the land of demons, Shizune and Tubu shuttled through the major pubs, looking for Tsunade's whereabouts. But Tsunade was already in the land of rain, and it was impossible to find her in the land of demons. In the land of rain, Akatsuki's apartment building. Shizune and Tubu were looking for Tsunade, looking at the snowflakes outside the window, thinking about something that seemed absolutely impossible in theory. That is, the mouse with Deidara was Naruto. The reason was the 2 sentences that the little mouse said yesterday. If it was 1 sentence, it would be fine, but 2 sentences. How could there be such a coincidence in the world? The more Tsunade thought about it, the more she felt that the mouse was Naruto, and finally couldn't help but go out. Dang. Deidara's door was knocked, and Deidara quickly came to open the door. Tsunade? What's the matter? Tsunade replied, Where's your little friend? I brought him some snacks. Tsunade said as she lifted the bag of snacks in her hand. Deidara stepped aside and opened the door. Then please come in, but the little guy is not in the room. He went to accompany Fei Duan to do training. Tsunade was stunned. Accompany Fei Duan? Deidara planned to take the snacks from Tsunade's hand, but Tsunade didn't seem to let go. After failing to take it twice, Deidara awkwardly retracted his hand. It's on the training ground in the backyard. Tsunade frowned. If it's Naruto, there's no reason to accompany Fei Duan to do special training. Because there's a life and death battle between her and Fei Duan. What's wrong with helping an outsider? Do you want your sensei to die early? Who let him go? Tsunade's expression wasn't very good. Deidara quietly moved away and replied that he wanted to go by himself. When he was brushing his teeth in the morning, he saw Fei Duan going downstairs and followed him. Tsunade's frown deepened. I'll go and see. Saying that, she left with the snacks. Deidara watched the large bag of snacks slip away in front of him and couldn't help but swallow. Because of his family's silly eating too much. His snacks reserves have been exhausted. Deidara muttered and sighed. Sigh. Why should I help Fei Duan, Tsunade left the apartment building and went straight to the training ground behind the building. The snow was still falling from the sky, and there was a lot of snow on the ground. Walking on it, there was a puff sound. However, Tsunade didn't walk through the front door. Instead, she walked along the wall of the apartment building to the roof, and then looked at the training ground from the roof. The training ground was open air, and there was quite a lot of snow on the ground. At one end of the training ground was Fei Dan, who was controlling 3 tentacles, and the silver-gray little flying squirrel, who was constantly throwing snowballs. Flying Duan's tentacles were a little different from the past battles. In the past, it was just a black tentacle, but now, there was a sharp sickle at the end of the black tentacle. The sickle was yellow in color, and it should be made of the earth element chakra. The little flying squirrel threw out a snowball as fast as it could. Then Fly Dan controlled the sickle tentacles to cut open the snowball. Both sides were very fast, and even with Tsunade's eyesight, she couldn't keep up. He's actually doing special training. The tentacles on Fei Duan's body also seemed to be a lot stronger than before. Tsunade's brow wrinkled deeply. It was impossible for Naruto to help the enemy deal with his own teacher. So, those 2 sentences were just a coincidence? That little mouse wasn't Naruto at all? Tsunade lowered her head and looked at the snacks in the bag, which were all Naruto's favorite snacks in the past. I'm out of my mind. Tsunade shook her head with a wry smile, then turned and left. After Tsunade left, Naruto's gaze seemed to glance at the place where Tsunade disappeared. Then he continued to throw snowballs at Fei Duan. Why did he accompany Fei Duan to train? The main reason was that Naruto didn't want to recognize Tsunade so early. Okay. Next, I'll try 4 arms. After shredding more than a dozen snowballs in a very short period of time, Fei Duan shouted at the top of his voice. Then Fei Duan's left hand split into 4 sickle tentacles. But this time, Fei Duan's reaction was obviously half a beat slower, and his control wasn't as flexible as before. Naruto's snowballs were getting faster and faster, and finally, Fei Duan couldn't dodge and was hit in the nose by a snowball. Ouch! Fei Duan wailed, and then a faster ice ball wrapped in snow was stuffed into his mouth. His front teeth were broken. It was like a bowling ball into a hole. Clap, clap. Clap, clap. The sound was transmitted to the periosteum by bone conduction, and it sounded particularly clear. Fei Duan wanted to stop, but his mouth was stuffed with ice balls, and he couldn't speak at all. Naruto's snowball flew over again, and Fei Duan controlled the 4 sickles to block it in a panic. But there was always something that couldn't be blocked that hit his body through the gap. A snowball hit his chest, and then his ribs were fractured. It hit his small leg, and his calf was fractured. The most annoying thing was that one hit his family jewels. Fei Duan's chakra exploded and melted the ice ball in his mouth. Fei Duan, who could finally speak, held his crotch with his right hand and groaned in pain, "My mother." It would have been better if he didn't say this sentence. After that, Naruto's snowball not only became faster, but also bigger. Wind release stirred the wind and snow to compress the snowball, and water was poured into it to melt part of the ice and snow. A solid snowball was produced at the speed of dozens of snowballs per second. Of course, Naruto could also directly use ice release without so much effort, but this was the Akatsuki's territory after all. It was better to keep a low profile. "Stand up, you still have a leg," Naruto shouted, and a snowball smashed out, hitting Fei Duan's already crippled calf, directly upgrading the original fracture to a comminuted fracture. Left. The snowball flew over from the left, and then hit Fei Duan's right leg. There was no fracture, but it still hurt a lot. Right. The snowball flew out from the right, and Fei Duan jumped to the left. However, the snowball still hit the right leg. Crack. A sound was transmitted through the bone to the periosteum. What's going on? It hurts, but there's no fracture. Could it be broken bones? Fei Duan felt that he was about to become a cripple, and he urgently needed to rest. Stop. However, Naruto didn't mean to stop at all. This time it's Ghost Fly Ball. Whoosh. A snowball was thrown into the sky, and then it fell rapidly. After Fei Duan dodged it, it continued to track it, and it hit his butt from below. Motherf asterisk cur. Fei Duan was about to go crazy. He contacted Kakuzu. "Come and help. If you don't help, I will be squashed to death." Kakuzu was very calm. "This will stimulate your potential even more." Stimulate potential? Stimulate my ass. Fei Duan still wanted to argue, but 3 snowballs in the shape of the character flew towards his head. Was this the rhythm of his head exploding? The 4 sickle tentacles quickly retracted, protecting his face. However, the 3 snowballs collided with each other and changed directions. In the end, one of them flew over his head, and the other 2 hit his abdomen and crotch. Fei Duan's face turned red, and he fell straight down. Mother****. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.